So you have to tell me when we're live. I think
We
we're
are
live.
live. We're super live.
We're super
This is
live.
yeah. We've never been this live before. This is like we're on the wrong side though. I feel weird when I'm on this side.
What do
I'm
you
on
mean?
like we're usually I'm on the other side and then you're like
Oh, well,
yeah.
you'll have to
This
take that up with
feels
management.
yeah. I don't know how it happens. I mean, it's just sort of like whatever the Streamyard yard lords decide is just how we
Oh,
wind
so
up.
we don't even control it. You push a
Do
button
we?
and
I don't know. I guess maybe Colin does. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's something Colin can do. Something. I mean, it's fine. We don't have to. But yeah, I'm not sure what the deal is. What's up, everybody? It's Thursday. Happy Thursday. It is
happy
February
Thursday
9th in this year of our Lord 2023.
2023. Wow.
So ridiculous. I mean, yeah, we're still. The United States is still trying to make it work. I mean, I feel like it's Valentine's Day is coming up. And I feel like we've definitely reached the toxic relationship status. Like,
Yeah,
like as a country, like
we definitely have.
this is just toxic beyond repair. We've burned bridges with all of our friends at this point, and it's just a very unhealthy, codependent thing. Um, yeah, I think we're at that point.
We're at that point.
So
Unless, of
as a
course, you're the head of a
society,
corporation and a member of Congress. Then it's just peachy keen,
then it's
lovey
pretty
dovey.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, if you're rich, it kind of works out, but for
Kind
everyone
of works
else,
out great. That's happy Valentine's Day. If you're part of the Platone or Congress, you're good.
uh,
Everybody else, I don't know. You're on your own.
yeah, yeah. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Status Coup. We have a really packed show.
We do.
All right. So first of all, we're going to be talking about Cop City later in the show, which we have some very very compelling footage here that kind of shows kind of indicates that the cop story might not be legit. I know you're probably shocked. You may have needed to sit down for that one, but we're going to show you the footage and we're going to dissect it. Also, the train that derailed in New Palestine, Ohio, right near the Ohio-Pennsylvania border, about an hour west of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my hometown. We're going to be talking about that. I think it is significantly worse than the media is letting on.
I do too.
And the NBC strike.
Yes,
of NBC
go NBC.
strikes. Yes,
Yeah,
there are some folks on strike.
Get a
They
contract.
walked out.
They
walked out today, and we got a little bit of insider information there, as well as some of the specific things the unions are asking for. So we're going to be talking about that as well. We also got a net neutrality update that's actually a little bit of good news. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about a gross child labor violation in Alabama, and then right-wing insanity report is going to happen. So
yes, and we have
a lot happening.
Zach Roberts will be joining today for Right Wing Insanity Report. Zach Roberts is a photojournalist who covers right-wing extremism. He's been on the show before, but he was just at the March for Life rally in D.C. Patriot Front was there, of course. They've been there the last couple of years. So we're going to talk about that and some of the other right-wing extremists that are globbing onto the anti-abortion movement.
I hate to say it, but some other people are struggling a little bit with us being on the wrong sides here. So I'm not the only one who's feeling it. Status Coup fam, I feel it's all right, man. I feel a little like a diva now, and I apologize. But
Ron, you're such a a I don't know how I work with you,
man. I'm sorry. It just was. I don't know. It just wasn't. It just wasn't. I feel like it's our feng shui. Is that the right word for it?
Feng shui, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it just wasn't
maybe
quite.
Consider that maybe the good feng shui is the way it is today.
Well, it's right
just
now.
Putting that out there.
So sure. So let's jump in. Let's start with the crazy train.
Toxic train. The toxic train.
So to get the timeline right, first it happened, and then they said everybody's got to get out of here, and they did an evacuation. Now they're saying it's okay to come back.
The order, yeah.
They rescinded
Which I don't
the
think
order.
it is.
I don't think it is either. So should we go to some of that footage? Because we have some tweets here. Let's go to some of those tweets. Show the big old black cloud tweet, Colin. That was not cool.
No,
it was kind of neat looking, but like dangerous and not okay in any way, shape, or form.
Also, this was a controlled release, just so that we're all clear on what happened here. This is a controlled release by the authorities of these toxic chemicals.
Give me one moment.
Okay.
Trying to find where that.
It's it's just kind of in that cluster of tweets with the train stuff, the crazy train stuff. But you know what this reminded me of while we're pulling up that tweet? So this isn't like the first. Oh, here we go. All right, here, I'll say it later.
I mean, look at that. That's
so look
crazy.
at that. I mean, that looks like the Wizard of Oz. That looks like you know what that looks like? Honestly, it looks like
vinyl chloride spilling from the tanks of their derailed train and burning and turning into hydrogen chloride as it rises from the atmosphere and mixes with water vapor. Yeah, this is entirely toxic. In fact, they refer to this as a bomb train. So it's dangerous chemicals. But go ahead and say what you're going to say. But I think we should also talk about how we got here, because Obama, Biden, Trump all have a hand in this. Whether it's through deregulation, not with the brakes,
crushing the strikes, having understaffed trains.
Exactly.
Yeah, these are all connected.
All of these things are connected.
Connected like a train track, dare I say. No, what I was going to say is pull up the picture again, call it, if you don't mind. It kind of looks like, you know what it actually looks like? It looks like one of those paintings that's like supposed to be satirical in nature. Like it's supposed to have a message of we're destroying the planet, you know? But this is real, unfortunately.
Real.
Like, this is real, and this is dangerous. And a bunch of people are reporting that they're having trouble. Like, because this can cause headaches, this can cause nosebleeds, this can cause, bad congestion, and this can increase your chances for cancer. So it's not safe to be outside right now near there. People miles from East Palestine, Ohio, this is according to Amy Marie, people miles from East Palestine, Ohio are complaining they smell chlorine and don't feel well. Authorities are telling them nothing to worry about. I am utterly appalled. Ignite 1 million pounds of vinyl chloride from hydrogen chloride and phosgene and tell people it's fine. So, yeah, this is not fine. Good. And this is fine. And you know what? This reminds me of, this is going way back. And the only reason I remember this is because I'm a big Telecommunications Act of 1996 nerd. It like how terrible it is. But one of the big arguments against the Telecommunications Act of 1996 and some of the disasters of it was because of the incident in 2002 in a town called Minot, North Dakota. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
So, yeah, I mean, a train derailed similar to this, and a bunch of poison chemicals were in the air. And keep in mind, this is 2002. So the internet is not what it is today. Like, there's still a lot of people that might not even have the internet. There's
Twitter
still,
did not exist.
Yeah, like people were not using the internet for news, really. So radio was still a pretty big deal. But this was post the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which, without getting too far into the weeds, folks, the Telecom Act in 96 homogenized all the radio stations, basically. It allowed like one entity to gobble up all the radio station, and Clear Channel did that. So there was no local station in this town to be like, hey, guys, train derailed. There's poison in the air. Get inside or get out of town. Or, yeah, you might still have to get out of town. Nobody local could do that. So all of their radio and all of their media was just being piped in from like some big market. I don't know, I don't know, maybe Minneapolis or Denver or something. I don't know, but it was like some big market miles away.
Well, yeah, because all the local news media got consolidated.
They're done.
So they're done. So now they would have the same media report for like 50 different cities, whereas before you would have had 50 different local stations actually doing local reports.
Yeah. So it's like
it was very devastating for local news.
It was so ridiculous too, because like you have somebody who's just like, oh, and in my know, it is not a cloud in the sky and it's sunny and 72. Meanwhile, there's like poison gas in their freaking air. Yeah. And it's like, so this kind of reminds me of all that, just because it's like, here's another situation, a train derailed, and they're downplaying the dangers of it. And you shared something, Tina. I think this is like a nice little component here about the stock thing that they're doing.
Well, yeah, but before we talk about that, they've been engaging in Norfolk. Southern has been
Norfolk.
engaging in stock buyback. So basically, they're buying their own stock off of the open market, which drives the price up. This is money that could have been going into investing in safety mechanisms such as brakes that are more appropriate, whatnot. But they chose not to do that. They lobbied Congress to not have regulation put in place that would have required them to do that. And also, they lobbied to have these types of chemicals removed from this explosives bill that Obama had passed. I want to bring up, Colin, the lever. The lever or the lever? You say lever, I say lever.
I say lever, but I might be wrong.
I don't know. Yeah. So this is David Sirota's outfit with Julia Rock, Rebecca Burns, Matthew Cunningham Cook. This is a great article because they took a deep dive into all of this stuff that we're talking about. So the company's 150-car train in Ohio reportedly burst into 100-foot flames upon derailing and was transporting materials that triggered a fireball when they were released and incinerated. It was not being regulated as a high-hazard flammable train, federal officials told the Lever. Documents show that when transportation safety rules were first created, a federal agency sided with, shockingly, industry lobbyists and limited regulations governing the transport of hazardous compounds. The decision effectively exempted many trains hauling dangerous materials, including the one in Ohio, from the high-hazard classification in its more stringent safety requirements. Amid the lobby and blitz against stronger transportation safety regulations, Norfolk Southern paid executives, here we go, millions on stock buybacks. And while the company shed thousands of employees despite warnings that understaffing is intensifying safety risks, Norfolk Southern officials also fought off a shareholder initiative. This is a shareholder initiative, so that means the shareholders that are actually, holding obviously shares of the public company. So these are investors as well. A shareholder initiative that could have required company executives to assess, review, and mitigate risks of hazardous material transportation. The sequence of events began a decade ago in the wake of a major uptick in derailments of train carrying crude oil and hazardous chemicals, including a New Jersey train crash that leaked the same toxic chemical as in Ohio. In response, the Obama administration in 2014 proposed improving safety regulations for trains carrying petroleum and other hazardous materials. However, after industry pressure, the final measure ended up narrowly focused on the transport of crude oil and exempting trains carrying many other combustible materials, including the chemical involved in this weekend's disaster. Wait for it, it's not over. Then came 2017. After rail industry donors delivered more than $6 million to GOP campaigns, the Trump administration, backed by rail lobbyists and Senate Republicans, rescinded part of that rule aimed at making better braking systems widespread on the nation's rails. Specifically, the regulators killed provisions requiring rail cars carrying hazardous flammable materials to be equipped with electronic braking systems to stop trains more quickly than conventional air brakes. Norfolk Southern had previously touted the new technology, known as electronically controlled pneumatic brakes, for its potential to reduce train stopping distances by as much as 60% over conventional air brake systems. But the company's lobby group nonetheless pressed for the rule's repeal, telling regulators that it would not, would impose tremendous costs without providing offsetting safety benefits. So, I mean, you've had both administrations, Republicans, Democrats, involved in creating this disaster. Obviously, corporations continue to get whatever they want from both parties. This is just one more prime example. And I do think you're right, Ron. Adding to this mix is the fact that you have train staffing, understaffing going on, where there's one guy on the train because they don't want to pay. We just went through this with the union contract, right? They still, didn't acquiesce to so many of these things that are not only bad labor practices that are terrible for these employees to have to put up with, but they are also massive safety problems.
Big time. And I think we should get to the Bernie thing in a second here, because he, did a what was it? Just basically a rally for the
hang on. But before they do that, let's go ahead and put up the stock buyback thing that I sent so people can see how much stock they bought back, because it's pretty wild. This is from The Fool. So this is hardly like a, rabidly left-leaning. This is very much an investor-friendly website. Norfolk Southern implements massive buyback program. Is that the right move today? So they're questioning it, but Management has bought back more than, wait for it, 2.3 billion in stock in 2018 thus far. So this is just 2018. So there's more stock buybacks beyond this.
So why do you think, because like I thought that was interesting because I think there's a couple things at play there. Now, full disclaimer, I am not like a financial analyst by any means, but I think like there's a number of things going on. Like, first of all, they've been doing the same stuff for a long time, as far as like understaffed trains and as far as exploitation, as far as, derailments like this are nothing new, like this is just the latest one. So they knew that eventually things were going to come to a head.
Right.
So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to buy back the stock so that like when you get some public fallout, it's not going to look so bad. It's not going to like hurt your prices as much.
No, I don't agree with that at all. I'll tell you why.
Why do you think
what motivates
that's
a stock?
Absolutely why they're doing it.
No, what motivates a stock buyback program is increasing the cost per share. So if you are a private or a corporate investor, if you've been given shares because you're on the board, because you're in management, whatnot. If you are a massive shareholder, all of those folks will make much more money after a buyback program has been done because their shares become much more valuable.
Right, because there's less of them available.
Correct. It's got nothing to do with...
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, like okay. I thought you were saying...
Yeah, like they do stuff like that. They do stuff like that to make it seem like there's more of a demand than there actually is.
Oh, you're saying more of a stock demand. Oh, I thought you meant something different by that. Okay.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you could phrase that way 100%. Yeah. I mean, it enriches them. 100% does because there's fewer shares. And this is not just something that rail companies do. A lot of these companies have been doing it for the last decade. It became
I mean, they all do it. But I think the other thing too, and like this is a little bit like you can't really prove or not prove this. This is just like my hunch. I think like eventually, like they've definitely been going head to head with the unions for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So I think part of it too is they're sort of preemptively planning, what if we do have to share a little bit more with the workers? Let's get out ahead of this.
Well, yes and no. My thing with this, but with the shares is that goes to enrich the individuals holding the shares, right? It doesn't go into the bottom line
but
of the
that
company,
could be, but that
profit-wise.
could be something they'd have to share with the workers at some point. You see programs like that all the time, so they're probably trying to get out ahead if they were ever to have to concede.
You're saying like some sort of 401k thing where they give.
Yeah, or just stock incentives. I mean, such a thing exists in different workplaces.
Rarely, but yeah, I gotcha.
No, it's not unheard of. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's like crazy common, but that could be something that they're getting out ahead of in case they would ever have to concede some of that too. I mean, you have to think like, I mean, they are covering every nook and cranny. That's how capitalists think.
That is, yeah.
You might be like, I don't know if that's the case. Well, you're not thinking like a capitalist then. You have to think like, this isn't what me or you would do. This is what they would do.
Right, but what my main thing would be driving up the value of the shares that I already hold that that's going to,
which is what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the main driver. Just that I think
that's the main driver, but I don't know. I think that there's multi layers to it because whenever they're doing stuff like that, it's because like there's something shady afoot that they're trying to get 3 steps ahead of.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, oh, we don't want the demand of our stock to not appear as juicy as we want it to be, or we are worried if we have to ever share any of this, we want to get out ahead of it. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But let's go to Bernie.
It is. I mean, because it just explains, it just adds one more layer to the greed that these companies are willing to engage in. So they don't care about the general public safety. They don't care about the well-being of their workers. And now they're probably going to face massive litigation for what happened, because I think what happened was preventable if they had been actually, doing something to mitigate the risk, whether it be installing these new brakes that are much better, obviously, than the old ones. They're not maintaining their system. So I think there is.
I bet they get away with a slap on the wrist, though. I doubt it.
From the government, perhaps, but there is liability exposure there, I believe.
I still think it'll be a slap on the wrist. I mean, I don't know who's going to hold them to account. From the government,
maybe. I mean,
right, but who else would hold them to account?
A private attorney that's going to sue on behalf of the class of the individuals that live in New Palestine that are being affected by it.
You
I
think
mean,
a small town in Ohio can take? I mean, I hope you're right.
I think a class action attorney that stands to make 30% pro bono.
I hope you're
might.
right. I hope you're right.
I mean, we've seen this happen with other environmental disasters.
It has
right?
happened.
Where ultimately, it's the only thing that checks these guys. Because you're right, the government doesn't have the teeth to do it. If they did, they would have enforced the regulation for them to replace these brakes to begin with. They would have made sure that these toxic chemical trains that are absolutely flammable were put into the same class as those transporting crude oil. Like, they could have done all of these, mitigation things. They just chose not to do it because they're greedy. It's simple.
Well, absolutely, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. For that attorney who's going to make the 30%, there's an attorney that they can hire and pay even more. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I hope you're
100%.
right. I hope I'm wrong.
No, there absolutely is. I know, but I'm just saying we've seen this happen.
It has.
Times.
We've also seen them get away with a lot. Obviously,
I'm not disputing that.
We see that the stuff that the oil and gas companies get away with constantly is like absolutely obscene. They commit thousands of violations per year. So much of it goes unchecked. And I
don't disagree with that. I think both of those things
attention.
are true. I agree. I think both of those things are true. But I think, in Department A is the government not, part of that is either quid pro quo or it's regulatory capture where you have folks that are sitting in these safety positions, right? The government regulation body is basically, and we know this from things with net neutrality too, right? We're populating these regulatory systems with people from a revolving door from the industry, right? So I work in the rail industry. I work for Norfolk Southern. Now I'm going to go work for the regulatory body that's supposed to keep these guys in check. I'm going to get, there's a quid pro quo there with the company that still exists. She's probably going to go back into that job again after she's done with the regulation job. So this is absolutely adding to it, but this is why they have no teeth. But maybe an outside, force like a civil suit might change that. I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Dare to dream. Dare to dream. Let's go. So should we go to the Bernie thing before we get off?
Because it's sort of
before we hop off.
Before we get off. Yeah, it sort of ties in. So, Bernie is not done hammering home on the 7 days of sick leave for the rail workers. So they're introducing some more legislation again. So let's take a look at the clip.
We are here today assembled to send a very strong message to the CEOs in the rail industry. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of the type of corporate greed we are seeing in that industry. At a time of record-breaking profits, that industry can and must guarantee at least 7 paid sick days to every rail worker in America. In the year 2023, that is not a whole lot to ask. Last year, 6 rail companies, Union Pacific, BNSF, Canadian Pacific, Canadian National, Norfolk Southern, and Kansas City Southern, made more than $22 billion in profits. They are doing extremely well. And what did they do with those record-breaking profits? Did they spend it on making the rail industry safer? And we just saw the other day this terrible accident in Ohio. No, they did not do that. Did they spend that money on improving the horrendous working conditions that exist today in the rail industry? Is that where they invested their money? No, they didn't do that. They spent over $20 billion of their profits on stock buybacks and dividends to make their wealthy shareholders even wealthier. Let us be clear. Guaranteeing 7 paid sick days to rail workers would cost the entire industry just $321 million, less than 1.2% of their profits in a single year. And they tell us they cannot afford sick days. Here is some very good news, and that is a couple of days ago, thanks to the work of the people behind me and workers all over this country, CSX, one of the major rail companies, finally agreed to provide paid sick days to some 5,000 rail workers in our country. Yesterday, I sent a letter to the CEOs of the other major rail companies demanding that they do the same. So let me just conclude. We're making some progress. We got a long way to go. I know the Biden administration is working on this as well. But at the end of the day, in the year 2023, it is not acceptable to me and to the overwhelming majority of the American people that workers who do dangerous, difficult, and important work do not get one paid sick day a year off. I'm aware the Democrats are control of the Senate, or I wouldn't be here as chairman. The answer is no, I haven't talked to Schumer about this specifically, but I'm confident that we will get it onto the floor. As Greg just mentioned, I think one of the things that's happened in the last couple of months because of all of these guys, people throughout this country are seeing the reality of what these workers are having to go through. And the American people are behind these workers overwhelmingly. So if the railroads themselves do not come to the table and negotiate an acceptable agreement to the unions, we are going to have the executives here in this room, in this committee room, and we surely will bring legislation to the floor. Okie dokie. All right. Thank you all very much.
I love that he's like, okie dokie.
Yeah, I mean, I hope.
I mean, I'm glad he's bringing it back.
That was more than just a nice speech. I mean,
at least he's bringing it back, Ron. Is anybody else doing that?
I'm with. No one else is. I'm with you. And, I'm not begrudging him for doing it. I'm glad he's trying. I honestly think, especially when you hear speeches like this, I think there's like a layer to Bernie where he's just. I do think Bernie genuinely is trying to use the office for good. I really do believe that about him. And
yeah,
I also think he kind of sees the writing on the wall.
Yeah,
I think he really does. And like, that's not being disparaging of him. It's like, hey, we all have our lanes, and that's the lane he chose. And I think he, I don't agree with every decision he's made. He has made some decisions that have frustrated me greatly. But, I think he genuinely wants to see this thing pass. But I think he also knows that all of our leverage was before they crushed the strike. That was all the leverage, and they crushed it. And his buddy Joe crushed it. He voted the right way. So Bernie, Bernie voted the right way. But, I hope this goes somewhere, but when he's saying things like, well, I haven't talked to Schumer yet, and I think Biden's on it, like, all right, do you actually think that? Do you really think that? Sounds nice. Sounds nice. I suppose there's a first time for everything, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm glad he's trying. I'd be willing to put a couple dollars that this doesn't go anywhere. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong. I actually think that should be a new segment. Where I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Where I talk about all this shit, because it's like a lot of times, like I'll just be talking to family, and they'll be like, "Well, I hope you're wrong about that," and I'm like, "I hope I'm wrong about that." What do you? I really hope I'm wrong about most of the shit I say.
That's so funny.
Because it's not good. But let's go to the super chat.
No, hang on. Before we do that, before we disembark from the toxic train, see what I did there?
Okay.
I want to put up Jordan Miller's tweet because Governor Mike DeWine had a press conference about this afternoon, and Evan Lambert, who is with News Nation, was live streaming the press conference, and he was tackled and arrested while doing so by some deputies, and they said it was because he was resisting arrest, which is nonsense. So can we play this video?
Lay flat, please.
You guys, he's a national correspondent. You cannot do this.
I'm a reporter with News Nation. It's all being recorded right now.
I hope it is. This is horrible.
Because you can't talk to people about doing their jobs.
Oh my God, I cannot believe this.
With that.
This is horrible.
This is what it's like to be a black reporter in 2023.
Evan, I'm so sorry. Evan, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Sia.
Roll over, sir. Shut that, it's a little tight. Get up on your butt.
Can you please loosen this because
we
it
will,
hurts?
as soon as you stand up. That one's a little tight, so we already
Oh my God.
Thank you very much.
This is horrible.
Can someone help me?
Yeah, we're helping you, Bob.
Evan, I'm sorry. Oh my
Are you
God.
serious?
This is horrible.
Doing a live shot. I get you arrested.
What happened to you, man? What happened?
I got arrested because I was trying to do a live report about what people need to
And
know.
he's been here
East
all
Palestine,
week.
I've been here all
You
week.
can't do this to him. This is wrong. Why are you arresting him?
Thank you, Tia. I'm really asking if I've ever seen one. I really want to go through this.
This is horrible.
It's going to be on the national news just because I'm trying to do my job.
Why was he arrested?
This is his First
Going to
Amendment
comply
right.
What
about
led to
doing
the
the
arrest?
First Amendment.
He was told
You
to
guys
leave
are
and he didn't leave.
distracting from what the
was
governor
what?
needs to tell the
It is
Palestinian
literally my
people.
job to be
Why
there.
was he told to leave?
Why are you arresting Evans? He's a national correspondent with News Nation. He's been
This
here on
is
the road all
ridiculous.
week.
Just
covering
trying to
the
tell
story.
people stories.
What is the problem? Searching on him.
Yeah, I got it. All right, just bring my phone, Bob. This one.
I don't have anything. My phone was thrown on the
That's
ground.
fine. I just got to check you, okay? Got to check you.
This is great.
This is horrible.
You got any ID on your boat or anything?
No, it's in my phone.
Okay, all right. Why is he
Evan, do you,
Why is
Evan,
he
I'm,
being arrested?
Evan, do you feel you were assaulted back there?
Yes, the National Guard General literally put his hands on me.
For no
And I asked
reason.
him
I
not to.
saw it. It's on camera.
This is folks.
Welcome
This
to
is
the
what
United States.
this is fascist,
This is-
like serious fascism here. So,
Yeah, that's what we live under. We are a fascist
leading
country.
up to the arrest, this is Jordan Miller speaking now, who is one of the witnesses there, also a reporter. Leading up to the arrest, I witnessed an Ohio National Guardsman put his hands on the reporter in a violent manner. I asked Governor DeWine if that's a good representation of the men and women who wear the uniform. He answered no before I even finished my sentence. He went on to say he believes in the freedom of the press and no one should be arrested for doing their job. He said he wants him released from Columbiana County Sheriff's Office custody and will have his staff look further into the incident. So I want to point something else too. When the reporters are asking the deputy why he's being arrested, one of them says he was distracting from the governor. Bro, stop. That is what we do as reporters. What you call distracting is us sometimes being adversarial because maybe they're not being honest, authentic, or telling the truth. That is our jobs. We are legally protected to be able to do that. So you don't get to say as a sheriff, you're distracting from the press conference. That's not how this works. I mean, this is
Unfortunately, they'll do it
unbelievable.
when they want to. I bet anything, he will be released, and I bet there will be some kind of statement or something like that, and he'll be cleared of any wrongdoing.
Oh, he will be cleared.
Nobody-
There'll probably be a lawsuit against.
Nobody will face any consequences. Nobody.
There will be a lawsuit that will be probably paid by the taxpayers.
$20
honestly.
says no one faces any consequences. You want to take
I
me
will
up
take
on
that
it?
100%.
All right,
I will,
20
because I already
bucks.
know that they will 100% sue over this.
But
This is absolutely a First Amendment
Nobody will
violation.
face any consequences. Nobody. No,
So,
no individual.
what do you call
Nobody will lose their job. Nobody will
Well,
lose
that's
their
not
job.
all right.
Nobody
that's
will.
not the only way you have consequences. Lawsuits
Nobody
also
will
bring
face any consequences. There will be a lawsuit. We'll see where
Okay.
it goes. It might be a slap on the wrist, but there will be no true consequences. There will be no true systemic changes that result on this. We will
Okay,
see
that's
stuff
different.
like this.
Say there's no consequences and there's no systemic changes are two different.
Well,
things.
you should.
I agree
Well,
with
you're
you.
going to lose $20. You didn't ask for
not losing-
clarifications.
Totally not losing.
You didn't
$20.
ask for. You didn't ask for. I just said there will be no consequences.
No.
And then you asked for
You
a
owe me a
definition.
beer, Ron.
You asked for a definition of consequences. I gave it to you, but you had
Well, but
already
that's-
taken the bet.
Yeah, but no, I'm sorry. Paying out a civil litigation is a consequence. It
You
may
should
not
have
be the
said,
one you-
Ron, what do you mean by consequence before
No,
they accept this
stop,
$20 bet? Because I posed the
stop,
bet. So the definition of consequence lies with me.
No.
And that's how it was. Because I proposed. If you proposed the bet and I just took it, and then you're like, well, this is what I mean by. So you asked first.
No, I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, no, this is what I mean by it. What did you think I meant? I'll be like, oh, okay, that's fair. That would have been right. But
You should have
moving
asked
on.
before you took the bet.
Oh, get out of here.
It's just how it works. I don't make the rules. I just follow them.
There'll be
Let's-
consequences.
All right, before we get off the train, and Tina owes me $20.
We
But
are
before we get off the
disembark-
train, we need to get to Tony's super chat first.
Okay.
Tony,
go.
Which, by the way, please do leave us a super chat. We'll get to all of them throughout the course of the show, but this one has to do with the trains. So, Colin, if you would please. Tony, what's up, buddy? I hope you're well. Ron, any good train puns for this awful story? You know, I saw that ahead of time, so I got a couple for you. Man, this story sure is off the rails. That was an easy one. Low-hanging fruit. I went for it, though. Went for it. You know, this is some pretty bad news over in New Palestine. People might need to get off their caboose and get out of town. Huh? See? Because they got to leave? All right. Man, it is so sad that they are cutting corners everywhere they go. These corporatists are really off the track. There you go. I got three of them. And
so
Tina's
before
gonna owe me
this show gets
$20.
entirely derailed, let's disembark off the toxic train and move on to another crazy story. So Cop City, Atlanta, we've been covering this for a couple of weeks now. We now have body cam footage from 4 different officers that was released by the Atlanta Police Department last night. We've edited out some of the clips so folks can see what's going on. Let's take a look first at the one where you can hear the shots in the distance.
Oh, shit. Is this target practice? Real shots fired.
So, wanted to point something out here. You have to sort of kind of go, because the one cop says is this target practice. So I think these officers are genuinely shocked to hear all of this gunfire, and that is clearly gunfire. So I don't see how we can have this work with the story that we're hearing from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't add up. So if the idea is that Tort shot one of the officers and then they fired back, it doesn't match. There isn't a shot in the abdomen. So the officer only took one shot to the abdomen, right? So could there have been more than that? Yes, but it just doesn't seem to make sense to me. And when I spoke with 2 forest defenders, both of them individually and separately told me that they heard a flurry of shots. I think that perfectly describes what we're hearing on this body cam footage. It doesn't sound to me as if, I don't know.
It does not. Their story, they're being, the police or like the guard or whatever. It does not at all sound plausible based on this footage, because according
there's more
to them,
to it for sure. I mean, it could be possible that Tort did fire a gun and that was part of this barrage, but it's still, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't add up for me, and I'm very skeptical. And here's the other thing, Ron. I think most people are skeptical. I can't speak anymore, of what a lot of these press reports and what the police say at these kind of propaganda fests, because too many times now they've been caught lying.
Yeah,
across the board.
And
they've been caught planting evidence.
Planting evidence. So here's their story was that they had were confronted with this individual, and this individual opened fire. That's from
inside a tent.
So somehow this person from inside a tent would have shot multiple rounds at police, like unprovoked, which just seems pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the gentleman that we interviewed kind of brought that up, where it's like it's almost like he would have had to have done okay.
Well, which one?
The
one we did not hidden. Okay.
The one that was
that
not
person
hidden.
was.
Yeah, I believe
Matthew wasn't there though.
Kamau, I believe was.
He wasn't there, but anyway, go ahead, carry on. The one that we did that was there was is not, is a they. That's all I'm saying.
I'm talking about the person you and I interviewed together.
Okay.
That's why I said we.
Okay. Gotcha. I
believe
just want to
that
clarify,
person-
though.
I don't remember that person's name off the top of my head, but I believe they were a male. Is that correct?
That's Matthew. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So, he even brought up that, like the person would have had to have done like a Fred Flintstone type run, like to, I kind of was having trouble visualizing that in my head, like what he meant by that. But now when I hear this footage, like, oh, I understand what that means. So it's like the way the cops describe what happened, it just sounds very, very unbelievable based on the way these shots rolled out. I mean, that there was no one shot; there were multiple. So, is it possible that the person that they murdered? Is it possible that maybe they fired something at some point? I suppose it's possible. We can't say without a doubt one way or another, but the cop's story does not add up here.
It does not.
All.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think it does either. There's definitely more to it. There's more to it. I agree with you. So I want to play the next clip. This is interesting to me because it sort of points to what I've been thinking for a while. If you have a flurry of shots and everybody's standing at from different angles, whatnot, it is very feasible that somebody gets hit with friendly fire. It just is. You have bullets flying around. They can bounce off the ground. This happens quite frequently in war zones, in fact. Let's play this clip.
No, that sounded like suppressed gunfire. Yeah. You fucked your own officer up.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, that's what it sounds.
So they're
if I had
much
been
saying it.
If I had been an officer in that force and I heard that, that is exactly what I would have thought, 100%. After hearing that first video, that's exactly, as far as I'm concerned, a very plausible explanation for this.
I think that is most likely what happened. I mean, we can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt, like completely definitively, but it just seems so very likely based
Even
on
if,
all of the footage we're looking at here.
Even if Tort did have a gun with him in the tent, in the tent, it is also plausible that the guy got hit by friendly fire. Like both of those things can be true.
Absolutely.
They did find a legal weapon purchase by Tort. So Tort at some point had bought a handgun of some sort. I can't remember what kind of gun it was. And then the GBI was saying, well, look, this was the gun they recovered from the tent. But I'm not clear that that's actually true either. If it was recovered from the tent, they would have said something immediately. They would have shown the weapon. We've seen in the past when officers have, in situations like this, where they've got a problem, where they find where this gun is kept, and then they say, hey, look, they had a gun.
There it was. Yeah, it was right there.
It was,
We're just mentioning it now. Yeah.
So I think that that's quite possible as well. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here. I'm skeptical, though. I have to be honest. I'm skeptical. A lot of unanswered
I think they're
questions,
lying.
but
I mean, me personally, I will go further than skeptical. I think they are lying. I can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt, but based on all of the evidence available to us and based on what little they can point to, the person bought a firearm. So what? That doesn't mean
that doesn't mean that's exactly right. But
all of a
that's
sudden
what they were trying to say, right?
Which is very, very interesting in the United States, where it's like, oh, hands off my gun, that's my right, blah, blah, blah. Except when it's convenient for them, oh, if you purchased a firearm, that's an admission of guilt when it's convenient for us. Man, what a hypocritical freaking country. So, no, I think they are likely lying here, which, is pretty much par for the course.
Yeah. So part of the story might be true. A lot of it might be false. So, and here's the other thing. So there's the question about the body cam footage, right? Why is it only that they have footage from these other 4 officers? Why didn't these other officers have body cams on? It's not clear to me that that's the case. So the situation is you had multiple agencies that were in the forest that morning, not just the Atlanta Police Department. You had DeKalb County sheriffs in there. You had Georgia State troopers. I know that there were federal authorities at the questioning. I'm not sure that they were actually there in the forest. However, during the raid, that is an unknown to me at this point. But if it's Georgia Bureau of Investigation, if it's state troopers, whatnot, those individuals aren't required to wear body cams the way that local police departments are. So a lot of this is regulated on the local level. LAPD has regulation that they have to wear body cams, right? Atlanta Police Department has the same regulation there. So it would check that if they were Atlanta police officers that they would have body cams. So my question to me isn't whether or not that footage exists. What I'm saying is that if Atlanta PD were involved in this shootout and it wasn't just the Georgia State troopers, then yes, there absolutely has to be body cam footage from those officers, not necessarily the state troopers. I find it strange they would only, in that whole entire shootout, it was only state troopers. I'm not sure that checks with me either.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
because it seems like they were working in teams, right, as they were clearing the forest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I it all seems pretty unbelievable. I mean, it's like their story just seems so unplausible on every single level. I mean, this is like, I mean, it reminds you of like just stuff you see in like fiction books of where they're trying to make a point of like,
right.
Yeah, this is just such an unbelievable, like story, and there's so much evidence to the contrary. But we see this time and time again. I mean, this is the same thing that happened with, in Pasadena when I believe it was Anthony McLean got shot in the back when he was running, and then all of a sudden they found this gun. I mean, it's like just these ridiculous stories that they try to get away with. But it helps when you have a corporate media that's just going to parrot their press releases 99% of the time. And to get any deeper stories or to see actual firsthand footage, you got to go to places like this. So,
yeah, indeed.
USA.
And I also want to point
Great
out
place.
that one of the community stakeholder advisors who's on the committee for Cop City has now resigned from the committee over this. I will be actually speaking with her tomorrow, so I will have more to report on that. But she's resigned her position, and she's citing the death of Emmanuel Tehran as the reason why, and the concerns that she has surrounding the investigation. Yeah, there's a tweet about it there. Okay.
And you're
actually, this is
her?
hang on. This is a different person. So we have now. This is a second. This is Claire Sterick. So the person I'm speaking to is Nicole. So do we have two resignations? Oh, no, this is from the Police Foundation Board. Okay, so we have, so Claire is resigning from the Police Foundation Board, which is good because I know there had been, she'd been on there from Emory University. So that's good. And then this other individual, Nicole, that I'll be speaking with tomorrow is actually on the Community Advisory Stakeholder Board, which is a different than this. This is for the Cop City build out. That is for the Atlanta Police Foundation. So we're seeing, point being, we're seeing resignations from multiple individuals because they are also not clear on what happened and are absolutely not okay with it. You can't just go around killing protesters. Civil disobedience is deeply ingrained in our country. I mean, it's if you're not being heard by your politicians, if you go about things the right way, right? You call them, you petition them, you send emails, you do some protests, and your needs aren't being heard or addressed, then this is what happens next. You have some civil disobedience. Is part of political discourse. I would say. I mean, even
well,
if
it
you
should
go back,
be. I mean,
it
it's
should be,
supposed
but I
to
think
be.
it is. I mean, it's supposed to be. I mean, the whole entire not to bring up the silly story you hear as a kid about the country, but dumping the tea bales, the Boston Tea Party, right? That is 100% civil disobedience. That's property destruction, right? That wasn't their property. So I think it is a very viable form of political dissent. So now,
it absolutely is.
When you cross into violence, that's a whole different thing. All bets are off. Violence is not okay, but.
Well, of course, but unfortunately, we also have a very rich history of authoritarian crackdowns on these.
Oh,
things.
100%.
I mean,
agree.
it's like so.
I agree.
It's a pretty tough situation, and I hope that these people who are resigning, I don't know if there's any more information that they may be privy to, but if there is anything, I hope we find out.
Yeah. So I will be speaking with this individual tomorrow, so hopefully I will get some information. Yes.
Yeah, because I don't know. I feel like there's got to be someone out there who was like in the field, I mean, I don't think any of these people stepping down were like actually there. I'm pretty sure, right? Like they were just
no, but
advisory
I
boards
think
and stuff.
yeah. But my thing is this, Ron, the political corruption that preceded how we got to this place, how this escalated to the point where this was happening, where you have forest defenders in the area trying to protect the forest. The fact that it escalated to that point is because of political corruption, right? If you have a policy that's being pushed through by a city council where 70% of your constituency is saying, I don't want this to be the case, there's a problem there. You're being motivated by something other than being a good politician and listening to your constituency, right? You're being motivated probably by greed, by contracts. There's a lot of money involved here. This is a $90 million project. $60 million coming from the police foundation. That's all corporate money coming in to the police foundation.
Yeah.
It's Home Depot. It's
Waffle
multiple
House,
banks, Waffle
right?
House,
Was it
JP
Waffle
Morgan,
House? No.
Georgia State University. So the potential there for political corruption is deep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it might be a bit of a stretch to suggest that politicians are motivated by something other than just being good public servants, but I'll allow it. But no, I just think I bet
they
there's
aren't.
someone...
I think there's the reality, and then there's the thing that they're supposed to be doing, which is why us journalists do what we do, right? We have to push them on that. You have to challenge that. Part of why the First Amendment is so important, part of why that arrest just happened that we just watched, is because a lot of these politicians don't want to be challenged. They just want to do what they're doing in the dark, right? They don't want people to know. Because that means they might lose their jobs, shockingly.
So I think, should we move on to NBC? Speaking of the media not doing what it's supposed to do.
Oh, and real quick before we do, I
Yes.
just want to mention we also Status Coup on there's we have a Substack, and we actually did an article on the
Right on.
BodyCam stuff. So if you guys want,
So
one place where it has the info, has the links to all the videos, so it's a little easy location. But we linked it in the super chat as well for you guys.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Colin.
Subscribe to Substack. We can't be YouTube exclusive. It's just so statuscoup.substack.com. The algorithm really sucks here, folks. So feel free, check out the Substack. Check out the audio podcast. We might be doing even a little bit more with the audio podcast, but sometimes you might not catch the whole live stream, or you might not catch the live stream every day, and you might think, I want to listen to some Status Coup when I'm on my run, or when I'm running errands, whatever it be, in my car, and you can listen to the podcast, the audio podcast, and smash the like button in the meantime. Don't just like it, smash it. And, of course, we will get to all of your super chats. Feel free to leave one. We love them very much. But NBC had a walkout today.
They
had a
walkout. Good for them, man.
So
enough is enough. They've been out without a contract now for almost 2 years?
They've been going back and forth about the contract. The next hearing, I think, is supposed to be in February. Let's go to the tweet first, shall we? Can we go to that More Perfect Union tweet, Colin? And then I actually have a little bit. So breaking: over 200 workers who make NBC News, MSNBC, and the Today Show have walked off the job. The NBC News Guild said they're on strike today in response to NBC's illegal firing of union members and refusal to a fair first labor contract after 3 years.
3 years.
Okay, years.
3 years. Okay, I thought it was only 2. Wow, that's crazy. 3 years. I mean, they've been good sports for 3 years. I probably would have said we need to walk out well before today, but good for them for finally doing it. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see this. Oh, and by the way, just for the record, everybody, I tweeted Chris Hayes, and I tweeted Joyanne Reed, and I tweeted Chuck Todd, and I asked all of them. I said, "Do you support the people on strike?" I've not heard back from any of them. But if that changes, I will let you guys know if any of them get back to me. Now, in fairness, I did give Chuck Todd a little more time because I think somebody might need to explain to him what a strike is, and then later someone will need to explain to him what a worker is. So he needs a little more time. So we'll see. We'll see, like, if any of them get back to me. But I did tweet all of them, and I asked if they were supportive of these efforts. We'll see. I bet none of them get back to me, but I tried.
I'm not taking that bet.
You're not gonna take that bet? Yeah, I don't think any of them will go back to me. But so here's what's going on. So there's two different divisions here. Now, full disclaimer, I do have a friend who will need to remain nameless, but he does work for MSNBC. There are two different unions going on between the digital newsroom and the broadcast unions. But they're in negotiation, NBC is, with a bunch of unions right now. And it's getting more and more frustrating.
Yeah.
And negotiations are supposed to pick up again on February 20th. Some of the contracts that are in existence will expire March 31st. So this could escalate. And one of the big things this is about is they're going to be screwing over vacation time. Do we have, Colin, can we pull up that document that I sent you right before the show? So let's take a look at this. The Union's Network Negotiating Committee met this week with senior management representatives of NBC Universal at the union's offices in New York City. The union is pursuing several substantial improvements in daily hire terms and conditions. In addition to the proposed increases in daily benefit payment, your negotiating committee is also seeking an improved accrual, usage, and carryover for paid sick leave. So they're messing with sick leave.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I think there was something about vacation too. Like they're basically screwing over the way you're going to be able to take your vacation. Because of like the manner in which you're able to take it and stuff like that. So there's a lot at stake here. And it seems like so far, again, it's been 3 years. Like 3 years they've been putting up with this nonsense.
Yeah,
so
it's ridiculous.
I hope they either get everything they want and then some, or they just completely go on strike, and then there is no MSNBC or NBC News, and there's just no, like, it's just all just, and then Americans are like, oh, I don't. Isn't it so interesting that this is happening in like a network that's supposed to be the alternative to the right? I mean, it's so freaking ridiculous, like how far right our media is. And by the way,
I mean,
MSNBC is owned by Comcast.
Right. I mean, it's corporate. It's all corporate.
It's corporate as hell. They're all like, I mean, it's all just like cut from the same cloth of just like, let's do the stuff that'll be okay with our advertisers and our shareholders. Let's not piss off any of the people who have financial stakes in this company. Let's cut corners everywhere we can. That's why someone like CNN, who has all the resources in the world, they have people standing in front of green screens instead of sending them to places because they don't want to spend money on journalism. They'd rather spend it to give to the shareholders. And that's why they'll send Wolf Blitzer to a freaking conference that's in Glasgow. They'll send him to Edinburgh because they're that freaking sloppy and they're on the ground reporting that they don't know there's two different cities in the country of Scotland. It's amazing. Like it's remarkable. You could not pitch this as a dystopian movie. They would say it's too unbelievable. But
my favorite thing is when they slide into my DMs and they want my footage for free. I'm like, no.
Oh, when the networks slide into your DMs?
Oh yeah, they all have. You name.
Oh man, you're like they're like, hey, former Miss West Hollywood, you got some footage and we want it. Is that what happens?
No. You're hilarious. No, but they do. Even though they have all the money in the world, and they, I know Jordan will tell you the same thing, they will absolutely ask, can we use your footage if we give you credit? And I'm like, no. You're going to have to pay me. And then sometimes they come back and they're like, how about $150? And I'm like, no, you're going to have to actually pay me something reasonable.
What do you usually get? Like, where's your like
where's
what's
my
typical
hard line in the
price?
sound? I wouldn't take anything.
No, wait. Question. Hang on. Before you answer, like, will you ask for more? Like, if you got punched in the face in the process,
100%.
Like if you're like a cop frickin' hit me, or like a white supremacist hit, both of which are things that are happened to you, right?
Yes.
Well, like, technically, a cop threw you on the ground, right? It wasn't a hit. Just to be proper.
He accidentally, I think, hit me. I felt his hand brush my cheek, but I think he was going for my shoulder and it just kind of slid by my face.
I don't think cops accidentally hit people, Tina. I don't want to speak to your experience, but
I think
I have a
from
feeling-
looking at the video,
his
I think he was
fist
just going
in
for
the
my
air, and it happened to hit my face. Like, all right. I mean, if you say that's what happened, I'll go along with it. It happened to you, but anyway, all right. So you would ask for more in that situation.
Oh
So
my
what's
God, yes, 100% more.
What's like the
so
bottom
for
floor?
boring, just stuff that needs
No
some,
assault. You know.
no assaults, B-roll on. I wouldn't take less than $350.
Okay, all right.
Non-exclusive.
And if you took one to the frickin' face, like
1,500.
1,500, yeah, that's a good. You should have like a sheet for people. Like it just if I got punched, 1,500. If my car window got broken, $2,000. If I got punched and my car window got broken, please reach out directly for quote sheet.
Wait, no. It should be like an ABC crib sheet. Like, so bump and pay if this happens. Bump and pay.
Right.
Like safety hazards. But the point being, though, they would, when they used to do this stuff, they would send out security crew with their reporters, right, to protect them, which can be very expensive. They don't want to pay for that stuff anymore. So the fact that they don't want to pay for that stuff, okay, fine, but at least offer a decent pay for licensing the footage. The fact that they've gotten so cheap in that respect is just unbelievable to me.
Well,
I have literally had more than once, I won't even tell you how many times, more than once CNN asked me for free footage. More than once.
Man, CNN. I mean, come on.
More than once.
Just be like, tell you what, give me a job. I'll be in charge of planning Wolf
Worst
Blitzer's
offender
travel
while I'm
arrangements.
telling, whatever. Whistleblowing, tattletaling, whatever I'm doing here. ABC, absolute worst.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute worst.
Well,
Worst.
I hope all the other networks, the workers go on strike too. I hope it's not. I hope everyone sees NBC's lead and they go on strike as well. CNN goes on strike. And it will be interesting to see if any of the, $30,000 a day personalities stand with them. I mean, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They need to. I'm sure they won't. If they are really, pro worker, if Joy Reid really is the leftist she claims to be, then she should. If Chris,
well, I tweeted her and I asked. Let's find out if I have. Here. I mean, something could have changed. I haven't been on.
I'm not
Twitter
taking that bet
since we've been doing the program here. But let me see.
Honestly, this is going to sound crazy. I would think Chris Hayes is more likely to stand with them than Joy is. But maybe that's crazy.
I would say so. Yeah. No, I would say so. I mean, I'm not a fan of any of them, but I would say like comparatively speaking, out of those three, I think Chris Hayes is
he does some decent
not
reporting,
as
I
bad.
think.
I wouldn't. I don't
Also,
know if I'd go
all
that
right,
far.
while you're looking that up, we do have the press release. Colin, I sent to you the press release from the GBI just to backtrack on our Cop City story for a second. We have they've made a press release now. I want to read this. Thank you, Colin, for putting that up. So the GBI is committed to a full, complete, and accurate investigation. Yesterday, the Atlanta Police Department released body cam video of their officers who were involved in the joint operation to clear the site of the future of they're still saying, I love that, to clear the site of the future City of Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. They're still gung-ho that that's going to happen. In those videos, at least one statement exists where an officer speculates that the trooper was shot by another officer in crossfire. Speculation is not evidence. Our investigation does not support this statement. I mean, you guys doing plenty of speculation all on your own. There is that, GBI. You are engaging in speculation. I agree that speculation isn't evidence, but then show us the evidence.
Yeah.
Anyway, the rest of this is pretty mundane, but just wanted to bring that to folks' attention. So did Joy get back to you?
No one's gotten back to me. I just checked pretty thoroughly. No one, Chris Hayes, Joyanne Reed, Chuck Todd, none of them have gotten back to me. But I did ask. So we'll see if any of them get back to me. We'll be the first. I'll do a breaking stream right here on Status Coup and be like, they tweeted me back. And if any of them block me, I'll also say that. I'll be like, they blocked me. I mean, I asked politely. I guess Chuck Todd, I kind of, took a dig at, but It's hard not to. That guy is just so ridiculous. Like that guy.
He has some not great opinions. I'll say that.
He's not. I mean, I feel so. 90% of the time, I never like to go after a person's intelligence, and he has always been an exception to that rule. He is just not bright. I can't be polite about it. Like, I don't know how, because he has a job, like a very important job, one would say.
High-paying job, yeah.
And he is, and very high-paying job, and he is genuinely not bright at all. Like, he is, like I wouldn't trust him to dry my socks level, like not a bright dude. I'd be like, no, you cannot feed my cat. You'll mess something up, and she has a pill that she needs to take each day. I can't trust you to do it right. And that guy gives his opinion on the frickin' news and really just doesn't know what he's talking about most of the time if it deviates from whatever press release he is struggling to read. I mean, I can't like it's really messed up that dude has that job.
So Ron, you really don't like Chuck Todd, I'm getting.
I mean, I just don't understand how he has that
I don't
gig.
either, to be
like
frank.
it's
I
not
don't
like
understand.
it's nothing personal. It's just like,
listen, I don't,
dude.
I don't.
It'd be like
I think that's
watching-
the case with a lot of these pundits. I don't know how they have their
Well,
jobs. I really
absolutely. But he kind of sets a bar, man. I mean, like it would be like watching a sporting event where there's somebody who literally doesn't know how to play the game, and they're on the. And you're just like, how are they playing a professional sport?
There was that whole. I'm having a flashback. There was that whole Joy Reid segment about Bernie Sanders and like the turtling and the way he was dressing, and then you went to that person's this expert opinion. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah, the body language expert.
Yeah.
That was so. Oh, that was just a friend of hers who lost a bet. Body language expert.
I mean, that was just mind-numbingly stupid. And then I remember going to her blog, and it was like, wear the color orange if.
Wait, did you find her blog? Are you a time-traveling Russian hacker? How did you get her blog? I thought the time-traveling Russian hackers got access to that and changed it.
No.
You don't remember that gem that she had? You don't remember when she accused?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, what, from her homophobic stuff. Yeah, that was really bad.
The time-traveling Russians did that? Oh, yeah. It was the time-traveling Russians.
That was bad.
That was bad. That was bad. There were time-traveling... Although, you know what? Time-traveling Russian hacker body language experts would be an interesting name for a band. That'd be a really interesting high-concept band with Chuck Todd on lead vocals.
Concept.
But all right, so shall we go to child labor? We got two more quick ones.
Child labor. We have net neutrality.
Yeah, we'll end on a little bit of good news. We'll go to child labor first, then we'll do net neutrality, and this is disgusting. So yeah, child labor is not the good news. In case my sentence sounded wonky to anyone, we're gonna end on a little bit of good news. But first, child labor, which is not the good news. So let's go to that Reuters piece. So I have long been saying on this show and just elsewhere in my life, I feel like we're going to see child labor come back before we see freaking living wages in this country. And man, another thing I hope I'm wrong about, but I'm starting to be proven right, unfortunately.
I know.
We had the incident. There was that incident in my hometown of Pittsburgh where there were over 101 labor law violations at a McDonald's franchise. That was in my hometown. If 101 of those things are going on in one city, you can guarantee it's going on elsewhere.
Everywhere.
That's not an isolated freaking thing.
No.
But here in Alabama, here's something that's been exposed. They had 12-year-olds working on the assembly line. Now a quick thing too. We're going to go into the article right now, but a quick aside too. All of the Hyundai plants around the world are unionized except for the ones in the United States.
Oh.
And I'm pretty sure that's the case with most major car manufacturers. I don't think that's unique to Hyundai. I think that's also the case with Nissan. All right, so Hyundai in talks with U.S. Labor Department over Alabama child labor. Hyundai Motor Corps said it's in talks with the U.S. Department of Labor to resolve concerns. Oh, you're concerned. Sorry. About child workers in the U.S. supply chain. And the company has taken corrective actions. In a statement late Tuesday, Hyundai told Reuters it has held a series of discussions with the Labor Department, which is how long do these discussions don't need to need to be. Hey, don't hire kids.
Yeah.
We made laws against that a long frickin' time ago.
Exactly.
Well, here's there is no situation. Don't do it. If you do
Don't
it,
do it. And you know what? Can we start arresting some of these white collar criminals? I was just going to say that. Go to jail. Go directly to jail. Exactly.
Yeah,
they get away with this stuff. They
All
get
right, so
away with this stuff.
let's scroll down.
They know there's no real consequence for their greed.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so here we go. This is good. These next two paragraphs are kind of like very tragic but funny. The talks with the U.S. labor regulator have focused on compliant measures across our supply chain, company spokesman Michael Stewart said in a statement after he finished drinking unicorn's blood. And like, how evil do you have to be? He also detailed several new measures Hyundai is implementing to ensure noncompliance never happens again. So here's the things they're doing now that apparently they weren't doing before.
Which is just remarkable. Yeah.
By the way, this isn't from The Onion. This is a real story from
Yeah.
Reuters. So here's what they're doing. This is their team who's knocking it out of the park here. Hyundai said it will roll out new employment training programs throughout the U.S. supply chain. So, just in case you needed some training to tell you don't hire a child.
Right.
This is great. Validate identification documents for job applicants. They weren't doing that before. Hey,
okay,
it says on your ID that your name is McLovin and you're 18 years old. Is this legit? Yeah, totally. That's me.
Also,
all right,
Ron,
fine.
Are you telling me that they can't look at a 12-year-old and realize that they're underage? That's just fucking ridiculous.
Apparently not.
A 12-year-old? You're going to tell me you mistook a 12-year-old as for an adult? Come on now.
The ID said they were 24. Now, sure, like it also had a different name. They told me it was just
a different
an error.
photo. I mean, the hair color didn't even match, but okay, no problem. I mean, come on.
It looked
now.
like it might be your older brother, maybe, but I mean, it's like, man, that's
12,
amazing.
12. I just don't buy it.
Now,
I don't buy it.
I have never had I never had a fake ID when I was younger. I just didn't really feel like I ever needed it.
Oh,
no,
I
didn't.
totally did.
I lived in I went to college in like a big college town, so like alcohol was never a problem, So I was just like, I got plenty of time to like pay more money for booze at the bars once I'm 21. So like there were times where like there were shows I wanted to go to where I wish I had one, but I never had a fake. But I know people that did, and sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And I'm like, man, what a world we're living in, where it's easier to apparently falsify documents to work as a child.
Right. I mean,
than it is to get into a bar.
But so when I was like underage, when I was a teenager, this was like the 80s. So IDs were way easy to change back then. You just like we used to call it chalking your ID. If there's anybody in the audience that knows this, they're gonna laugh, right?
I've not heard of this.
You would take a white pencil, and so it would be your actual ID, like your real ID. You would take this like white pencil, and you would block out the date, the year with that, and then you would take a black one, and if you were really good at it, it was like undetectable. And then you would change the year you were born to make yourself 21, right?
Right.
And then you would stick it in, one of these plastic pouches, and nobody back then would take them out of plastic pouches, and you would just show it.
That's interesting.
I don't think you could do that now with the new IDs.
No, I don't think. Yeah, you definitely can't do it. That's interesting. So, all right, so let's go back to the article. See, I don't know if we completed their amazing list here. All right, wait. Scroll back up, Colin. Go back to that paragraph. Just all right. So they're going to validate ID documents. They weren't doing that beforehand. Set up anonymous tip hotlines. So, if you know of anybody who's violating child labor laws, you can call a number where of course they'll police themselves. And this is great. This is because they threw someone else under the bus and discourage the use of third-party staffing agencies. Yes, because it was someone else's fault.
Yeah.
Cool story. Reuters found those agencies sometimes place underage workers in the supplier's plants. Well, guess what? The buck stops with the frickin' supplier. I'm sorry. The Labor Department declined to comment on meetings or discussions with Hyundai. So in a statement, the department spokesperson did say it's committed to ensuring employers understand the responsibility under the new law and engages with employers to help them achieve compliance. Folks, this is a slow boil. All right. And by the way, Status Coup is one of the few places that actually talks about this stuff. You don't hear it often in the media where they're talking about violations of child labor laws. You're seeing it from outlets like Reuters, outlets like this one, places like More Perfect Union. Those are the places that usually report on this stuff. A lot of times it really goes under the radar, which means it's going to freaking increase. And this isn't the last of this. I mean, there was an incident in Wisconsin.
I think it's probably happening other places too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a ton we don't even know about yet.
Wow.
I mean, so
12
years old.
12.
It's frightening. It is a frightening time, and it keeps getting worse. And that's the thing. Like, I stopped asking where's the bottom, because it's like, what can always get worse? I mean, it can get way worse.
Always get worse. Yeah. This is
And
they
we
do
might.
this because they're chasing lower wages, right? If these were union shops where people were getting paid decent wages and that was just the way it was, this would not be happening. But they're non-union. They want to, chase lower wages always. And the way to do that is to like turn an eye and be like, yeah, they're 12. They don't need to make a decent wage. We don't know. Well, they've got a fake ID. Fine. Okay, great. I mean, it's really gross. It's gross.
So, folks, a little bit of good news to end the stream here, and then we'll get to the super chats, and I'll let you guys know where to find me. Then we're on to Right Wing Insanity. But a little bit of good news here. Gigi Sohn, Biden's nominee for the FCC, which would give us a pro-net neutrality FCC. I know we've been covering it on the show here a lot. She has finally gotten a scheduled hearing, and it is on Valentine's Day. It's coming up on February 14th. It is at 10 a.m. Eastern, which is 7 a.m. for me. And I say it a little bit like oh boy, Lee, because if all goes as planned, I'll be streaming the hearing live here on Status Coup. So come hang out with me. It'll be really early where I'm at, but I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie. Here's the deal, and please pull up the battleforthenet.com if you would. Guys, please go to this website right now, battleforthenet.com. Please sign the petition, because here's the deal. She has faced tons of right-wing smears. We went into those right-wing smears in detail last week. She is facing an indifferent president. Biden doesn't really give a hoot about this one way or another. Chuck Schumer is totally conflicted with big tech. There are Republicans holding out on her. There are Democrats holding out on her. But here's the deal, folks. If everyone delivers on the promises they made, she will get through, and Biden will have to approve her. And finally, after 2 years, this process usually takes a couple weeks, just to put it in perspective. Usually this is a couple weeks after a president is elected. In this case, it's been about 2 years. But finally, we will have the pro-net neutrality FCC we were promised, but we have to be so freaking loud to force them to hold the promises they made. So battleforthenet.com, please sign if you have not signed yet. Battleforthenet.com, and we'll be streaming the hearing live over on Status Coup. So it'll be a very digital rights centric special stream, and I'm looking forward to it. I might just not go to bed the night before. I'm not a morning person, but yeah, so that's exciting. And before we get to the super chats, I'll tell folks where they can find me tomorrow night. Los Angeles, what are you doing, Los Angeles? I'm in town. The Glendale Room, 10 p.m. That's right in the heart of Glendale. RonPlacone.com for tickets. That's tomorrow night. Don't wait. Get your tickets now. Second show of a series of 3, April 14th at the Glendale Room, and the last one is May 12th at the Glendale Room. June 16th, Madison, Wisconsin. June 17th, Minneapolis, Minnesota. June 29th, Chicago, Illinois. Tickets available for those shows now, and you can use the promo code Lucy at checkout for the early bird special. So get your tickets now. Do not wait. And Detroit, I'll be in town June 23rd. Tickets aren't available yet, but as soon as they're up, I will let everybody know. RonPlacone.com for all tickets and more info. And super chat time, huh?
Yes.
B. Palfa points out that neighborhood is poisoned for a long time to come. Yeah, I mean, that stuff lingers. This is going back to the New Palestine story.
Yeah,
that stuff lingers. And also, this is an area, they also have a lot of water problems with stuff like fracking and stuff like that. So I mean, this is an area that takes a lot.
It's an environmental disaster, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, it really is. So it's really messed up. Observer, there was never going to be a strike. Yeah, the government put an end to it. Yeah. Thank you for your super chat, Observer. But yeah, I honestly think had they not interfered, there would have been. I think that had the government not moved across the strike, I think they
Yeah.
would have. I think they would have went on strike. So,
I
but
think they would have,
they
yes.
crushed it.
But I think probably observers saying that the government was never going to allow
They
that.
were never going to let it. Oh
to
yeah,
happen.
no, I hear you. But
agree.
yeah, I think that had they not,
Had they not,
intervened,
I think they
it
would have gone on
happened.
strike, yeah.
Ah, so frustrating. Robin Bennett, what's up? How are you, Robin? Thanks for what you do. Thank you, Robin, and thank you for what you do. Thank you for your support. Without it, this show wouldn't exist. So thank you so much for your support, Robin, and I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. Desbusch Fleisch from Germany. Arrested for what? Reporting while not being white enough? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, right?
arrested because he asked too many complicated questions during the press conference, which is what his job is to do, because he was possibly live streaming and they didn't want, I don't know. It's so many levels of wrong. I can't even believe it.
Well, it's just so he was there all week.
Yeah, they knew who
he was there all week. This was totally excusable no matter what, because there were so many people saying, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, and they were ignoring it.
But if there weren't,
they're like, we're
anybody
hog tying the media guy. Back away, back away. He's resisting. I mean, do you know how many times
they were
seen
stormtroopers.
them say he's resisting, she's resisting, they're resisting, and they're not? It's remarkable to me. They just say it.
Because that's their cop out.
Somebody
No pun
can be
intended.
lying on the floor, not moving or saying a word, and they're resisting. And it's like, no, they're not. They're not resisting. Stop saying that.
Well, that was the the execution that happened here in LA when they tased that guy to death. I mean, we watched it here. It was painful.
Oh,
It's
I've
painful
definitely
to
seen
watch.
the LAPD. I've seen LAPD officers do it. 100%.
They were making it out like that person was resisting. That person was literally being killed. You were executing that person. I mean, it's man. But yeah, I mean, that was ridiculous. But it would have been one thing if that guy, if nobody else was there and they had never seen that dude before. That, I mean, it was still totally out of line. And he definitely probably had press credentials and stuff, so it shouldn't have been an issue.
He definitely did. I mean,
but then
News Nation is a large outlet, so
right, they're a large outlet. So, but then it's okay, well, no one else was there to vouch for him, and maybe they thought it was fake. Still not cool, but he was there all freaking week.
I know.
And there's a bunch of people going, "What the hell are you doing?" And they still just did it. They're stormtroopers. They are freaking stormtroopers. This is nuts. This is what a fascist regime looks like.
It's nuts.
He's
my favorite line, though, was he's distracting from the governor. Distracting.
Yeah, the governor needs to concentrate on their lives.
I'm sorry, what law did he break? Oh, that's right, absolutely none.
You asked a question.
It's remarkable.
Desbusch Fleisch, don't lose your train of thought, Ron. No promises, but thank you. I'll try. Can't promise. But thank you for that, Desbusch Fleisch. Glenn Polite.
I know, the Waffle House,
or
man.
Polite.
I couldn't eat at the Waffle House when I was in Atlanta because of it, too. It just bothered me too much. I know, right?
So I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Polite or is it Polite? Or are you just Glenn Polite? Glenn Polite. But either way, Glenn, thank you so much for your Super Chat contribution. I'm pissed that I can no longer eat at Waffle House in good conscience anymore.
I know.
I mean, yeah, but I'm with you, but I don't know. There's so many places where it's if you really think about it, you almost can't justify going anywhere.
I know.
It's you do your best. I mean, when someone does something
best.
really on the nose, that's one thing. Waffle House in this case did something really on the nose.
On the nose, yeah.
Like Chick-fil-A is really on the nose.
Really on the nose,
places like that.
Home
so
Depot.
Yeah.
I can't shop.
Oh,
at
what
Home
did
Depot.
they do?
Oh my God, Home Depot.
Oh wait, they're part of this too, aren't they?
They 100% are, but this.
But
isn't
did
the
they
first...
do something else? What else did they do?
Oh yeah, they've given money to so many weirdo politicians, fringe right-wing politicians. It's sort of
I thought that was someone else. That was Home Depot. See, you can't. All right, geez. Well, and then of course Walmart. That's pretty on the nose. I mean, it's But that's some of them are a little like Costco is a little bit
Costco's
okay, they're not.
I think I can shop at Costco with a good conscience. I like that they have higher wages. They pay way more than most. Their average wage there for retail is $40K, which is way higher than what you would make at Walmart or Amazon or anything.
So they're a little better comparatively. I mean, it's we live in a freaking corporatocracy, but it's
yeah,
some of them are a little okay, they're not they're not as terrible, and it's like this is the society we
is
live in.
anybody
You have to
buying
participate.
anything from My Pillow guy at this point?
Mustache trimmers.
Mustache.
His is just so on point. I don't know. I wonder if
I mean, that guy I think has totally killed his business.
well, here's the other side of it though.
I mean,
I
there's
didn't
just
know
not enough January 6th insurrectionists to go around to buy enough pillows from the guy for him to stay in business. Maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know.
Well, you know what though? I didn't know what My Pillow was before him.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Like
neither
before
did, wait,
he
neither
made it
did
clear,
I.
you
Neither
know,
did I, but
so-
I will never buy one.
No, I feel you, but it's like maybe I mean maybe there's people who are like share his views that also didn't know who the hell he was,
Fair.
and maybe now like they're just buying pillows out the wazoo. I mean, it is pretty funny that it's like he's this like fringe
I agree.
right wing like tough
super
guy.
crazy.
It's like,
Yeah.
what do? I sell pillows.
I sell pillows.
Comfort's important. But yeah. So thank
what do you
you
do?
very.
What do you do when you're not storming the Capitol? I sell pillows.
Yeah, right. Like he's just like. It's
Okay, Ron, I've been around you way too long. You're rubbing off on me.
when I'm not trying to infringe a fascist theocracy on a group of people for no frickin' reason, I'm thinking
sell
about
pillows.
comfort.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Tony D. Thank you, Observer. Thank you, Robin Bennett. Thank you, Despos Fleisch. Thank you, Despos Fleisch again. And thank you, Glenn Polite. I like that. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Glenn.
Well, you're
and
making
Carl,
him Italian because you're Italian.
Yeah, right. That's true. I just make everyone Italian. That's all I do. So it's like the only thing. Chris, where did Chris go? Chris! I look forward to Thursdays with Ron and Tina on Status Coup. Aw, thanks, Chris. Thanks for what you do. Thank you very much for
Yes,
that,
thank
Chris.
you.
Much appreciated. And Carl makes a good point here. I agree with this. They should have a 6-month limit for contract negotiations. Totally. Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, it's ridiculous. 3 years? That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It's insane.
I think 6 months is more than generous.
More than generous.
Like that is beyond. That's
you should
half
be able
a
to iron out
frickin'
your
year.
differences. Yeah, I agree.
No kidding, right? I'm with you. I think Carl. I think that's an excellent idea.
I agree.
Bruce points out cops lie even when they don't have to. It's part of their training to bolster the case for their actions. Yeah. No kidding.
You know, there's some truth to that, right? The part of the systemic things that, you know, reformists and abolitionists talk about is that nature, the nature of what they do, the craft, right? And that is definitely part of it.
And you know what's interesting too is that cops would not be able to lie if they didn't have a good night's sleep. And you can get a good night's sleep with the right pillow. So go to mypillowguy.com or whatever the fuck his website is. What if we had a promo code with him?
Oh my God, no.
Use the promo code.
We need to find somebody that makes olive oil.
That would be
was kind of random, but I'm just saying
that
that
would be a cool promo. Well, yeah. I mean, hey, I actually, ironically enough, I get my olive oil from Costco.
Yeah, I do too, actually.
It's a good bargain. You can't beat it.
It's a good bargain, and it's guaranteed to be. The Kirkland brand is 100%
It's
olive oil.
quality.
You know, they had that whole scandal, right, where people were saying it was olive oil and it wasn't. It was canola and all these other things. Do you remember?
Kirkland was doing that?
No, Kirkland was tested positive 100% olive oil. So Kirkland.
Okay. I didn't know about this.
How did you not know about this?
I don't know. I mean, I should know. I'm glad the shit I buy passed the test, though.
Dude, it was
good.
like the Sicilian mafia. Come on now.
Oh, well,
It was a whole freaking thing they had going.
Okay. Well, I know like a lot of times like the olive oil is actually from Spain, even more so than Italy. Some Italians will admit to that, others won't. But like a lot of it's like Spain. And but
and a lot of it's just canola.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think the big mob presence is like in the the Calabria area now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Like
you're
they're all
probably right.
there.
And they have really good peppers there. Just
Oh
saying.
yeah, they have lovely cuisine. I didn't know they were messing with the olive oil though. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Well,
Yeah,
I'm glad
look it up.
that
It's wild.
Kirkland.
It's a wild story. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the highest quality olive oil you can get. And sometimes if I have like a really special thing, I'll get like a little, special something from like a
Oh,
craft,
100%. Yeah. If I'm using
like
for
an Italian
dipping or
grocery
something,
store or
yeah,
something.
right,
But
yeah.
but as far
But
as
for
like
daily oil, it's good stuff.
it's good stuff, and it's a good bargain for what you pay
Yeah.
for it. So
I agree.
anyway, use the promo code. CNN in Tina's DMs at checkout for a discount on your olive oil. We got to get some of those for real. We got to get. It's not going to be with the My Pillow guy. I don't think he'd be. That would be bad. But yeah, we got to get some. Thank you. Let me do another round of thank yous before we go to Right Wing. Thank you, Tony D. Thank you, Observer. Thank you, Robin Bennett. Thank you, Desbush Fleiss. Thank you, Desbush Fleiss again. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Tony B. Thank you, Chris Garrett. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. You help keep this show on the air. You can check out my tour dates again at ronplacone.com. And don't wait, Midwest. Get those tickets and use the promo code LA. See you tomorrow. And it's some right-wing insanity time, I believe.
Yep. So join me, Zach Roberts' interview. We're going to be talking about right-wing extremists like Patriot Front and March for Life and anti-abortion. Tina-Desiree Berg, and this week on the Right Wing Insanity Report, I am joined by photojournalist, independent journalist Zach Roberts. We're going to talk about lots of things, including the recent Patriot Front joining up with March for Life march that just happened again in Washington, D.C. So welcome, Zach.
Hello. How goes it?
It goes well. We got a good roundup this week because, of course, every week is a good roundup for right-wing insanity these days.
Well, good is in quotes. Just if anyone just
fair. Meaning there's solid information to include. But let's start with talking about Patriot Front. They're a neo-Nazi organization formed by Thomas Rousseau. We've talked about them on the show in the past. Fascist organization that I think is growing. They're also heavily involved with the active clubs that are springing up across the country, which is like, Nazi MMA boxing matches. But I wanted to focus particularly on the anti-abortion group March for Life and the connections that Patriot Front has had with them the last 3 years that we're aware of. Maybe I would say about that because Patriot Front only came after Charlottesville. Thomas Rousseau had a different group that he was present at Charlottesville with. So I'm saying 3 years, maybe 4, but that's about it. But to give some history on that, I do have a copy of a leaked member call in which they were discussing their relationship with the March for Life group. Let's play that so folks can get some idea of what we're talking about.
Moving on. And final notes before we get into the open forum, which is going to be, remember, questions are to be delivered to me in the direct messages, and I will answer them here that way. You are not to speak. So we will be moving into forward planning for 2022. I will tell you that that we have attended the March for Life events in several cities around the country for many years now, going on 4 years now. So I hope it's not too much of a security risk to say that we're probably going to do it again this year. If anybody, Antifa's out there with memories of goldfish, perhaps. So yes, please stay ready, and we might have some more demonstrations coming up in the next month or so. But do not worry too much because these are going to be very well planned, and we will be among friends at these events. These people at these March for Life events have really come to support us over the years, and because of the last year's cancellations of these events, we are expecting even larger crowds of supportive individuals who will no doubt have much more likely heard of us and have strong opinions about our efforts and our privations to see the nation free. So please stand by your directors, your organizers, your points of contact for instruction on these events. But nonetheless, if you needed any additional motive to keep yourself fit, in shape, ready, and responsive, then there you go. Moving beyond that, we will be planning the rest of our year for 20.
What's interesting to me about this, this was recorded in 2021. At least that is what my understanding of this leak is. And he's saying 4 years in this, and that's longer than Patriot Front has been known to the public. I don't know if he means with like his previous group or what, but
I believe the Patriot Front in whatever incarnation was kind of, whether it was a genuinely formed organization, was started after the breakup of a lot of groups after the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, after Vanguard America kind of evaporated to some extent. and everyone kind of reformed and rejoined groups. So I mean, I guess it's 4 years. For Patriot Front, is my understanding though is that the first year that they really started showing up was probably the last year in like full garb with banners and everything like that. So
right. So I just thought that was interesting because that is how I have only seen video of the last, but apparently they've been going longer than that, maybe hiding out. I don't know. Who knows? Is what he's saying. But so, March for Life, for folks that don't know, this is an anti-abortion organization. They've been around for over a decade. They've been doing yearly marches, not just in Washington, D.C., but they also go to other major cities like Chicago, whatnot. And their entire goal was, of course, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which we've now seen happen. But why do you think, in your opinion, you were there this year, so why do you think, in your opinion, there's been this sort of conflation of these right-wing extremists into the anti-abortion movement? Because I think for a lot of folks, this seems maybe counterintuitive. They think that the anti-abortion crowd is all of these, Christians that are, inclusive and whatnot. But a lot of Nazis are Christians. So I think folks need to get used to that idea.
The one of the biggest things is that a lot of the groups that we see on the extreme far right now are Christian nationalist groups at their core, and then they kind of go from, how racist are they on different levels?
Right.
You have somebody like the Groypers, and you have Nick Fuentes, who is like, there are African-American member, at least one, I've seen one. And they really tout that one member, but it's also, it's like the Proud Boys as well. You have, people like Enrique Tarrio, and they're not necessarily, I don't know if I would say they're specifically a Christian organization, but the Western values is always a wink and a nod to, we know what Western values means in a very defined set of things. It doesn't mean Muslim, it doesn't mean, it definitely doesn't also mean there are Jewish members, but it also doesn't really mean Jewish, But I think Tommy Rousseau there says it in the audio, where it's just like, we will be among friends at March for Life, and I don't believe that he means like, there's going to be other
other
groups
Nazis
that were like at Unite the Right. He means that he's going to be friendly, and like I took video last year.
Yeah, in fact, let's
them
play
handing
it.
out flyers. Yep.
Flyer? Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming out. You recognize it? Hell yeah, brother.
Don't fly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Have a good one. Thanks for coming out. Would you like a flyer, sir? I got a couple.
Be safe out there, guys.
Thank you very much. You as well, sir.
Stay safe, guys.
Thank you as well. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for supporting the right to life.
Yeah, it's you can hear which the story of them coming out. Everybody, there's cameras everywhere covering them. I was lucky enough that I had a really good shotgun mic on, so I was able to grab the audio amongst a massive crowd of people talking, and I heard continually people thanking them for coming out, thanking whatever, looking at the flyer, knowing a handful of people very clearly understood who they were and had a really good idea. Mind you, this is a group, the Patriot Front. You can look at photos of them and see they're very upfront on who they are. They have fascist symbols that are widely universally recognized as symbols. Right. They're masked. They got, covered. I mean, they look like they came out of the, out of Charlottesville at Unite the Right rally. I mean, which they did, they look the part specifically for that reason. And I remember still explaining to a woman that was like, "Oh, who are these people?" Whatever, and I was just like, "Oh, they're a Christian nationalist organization that is, fascist and doing system." She's like, "Oh, they're Christian. That's great," and walked away. And I was just like, I had explained it who they were, and they're chanting, very kind of intimidating things as well, and. But that's what's important is that the March for Life, mind you, I'm sure there's atheists that show up. There are Students for Life, and I always forget Progressive Action, or AAU is an organization of younger people who are LGBT supposedly, right. and atheists, some of them as well, and so you do have like a spectrum, but it is at its core. I mean, it is at its core. The Knights of Columbus basically run everything, not in a logistical thing, but on a on a logistical thing, not on a like financial thing. But they're the people that run the march and do everything, right. which is a very extreme Catholic organization. And it's just like, as a former Catholic, who they show up and try to, indoctrinate you when you're a certain age into the Knights of Columbus and kind of invite you in. And
right.
that was one of the more scary moments of Catholicism. But they are there with friends. There's other groups like the New Columbia Movement, which is a specifically Christian nationalist organization that is not it's not anti-Semitic. I would say they wouldn't say they were anti-Semitic, but they are specifically Catholic, and some Protestants are okay.
It's a thing. Like the Mel Gibson is just the tip of the iceberg on that. There are full-blown groups on Telegram now that call themselves Christian Aryans, Christian Nazis. Like they're not hiding that anymore. They're definitely becoming more radicalized in that group.
Well, I mean, the core of the anti-abortion movement, I mean, the modern racism, the modern kind of racist movements that we have now, and anti-Semitic movement, really genuinely come out of the anti-abortion movement. Right. And so we have, one of the things that we really forget is that the Atlanta bombing that happened, I think I might have actually brought this up last time,
right.
But the Atlanta bombing that happened at the Olympics back in the 90s, that was actually an anti-abortion activist that bombed because they didn't like different societies and different colors of people coming together. And that's what a lot of the core active groups, Operation Save America comes out of that kind of thing. They're rallying down in South Carolina this month as well for a full week of harassing the few clinics and that sort of thing that still exist down there.
Interesting. So this year at the March for Life, was there anything that you noticed that was different? Did things seem more intense in any way, ratcheted up?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things is, Patriot Front was there. They didn't come with banners. They didn't come with anything like that. But they were there handing out flyers. We just completely lucked out. And by the only masked people that were there, we kind of immediately, a group of journalists who follow these groups, we were just like, we might want to check those people out. And then we watched them stamp a sticker up on something, and I'm like, that's Patriot Front. I mean, and then we found the sticker a couple minutes later when we walked over once they moved away. But they just started handing out flyers, and they were masked up for the most part, and wearing khakis, wearing boots. Mind you, I wear khakis and boots. So it was just again why I wear
fascist kind of
I try to blend
dress
in.
code.
Sometimes it becomes a little scary when I blend into it. But they were handing out flyers and being really, kind of quiet about it, and not really talking to people, and not really not chanting anything, but they were kind of moving around. I followed them as long as I possibly could. They really didn't like that. Once they pegged, that I was pegged out, that I was filming them. So, but there was also, like I said, the New Columbia Movement group there. There's also, but the biggest thing that's kind of scary about the March for Life movement and the kind of anti-abortion movement as a whole is something that, I just interviewed Rob and Marty from down in Alabama, and we're talking about the fact that they're moving on to the next step about, okay, so Roe versus Wade was overturned, and that was never the goal. That was a goal in quotes. It was a step along the way.
It's a stepping stone.
The final step is basically mandatory pregnancy for women if you want to have sex. And that's what the fact that it goes hand in hand with these groups, so many of these groups that are Christian nationalist organizations like Patriot Front, and what their the role of women are in society. And I say women because these groups don't recognize that trans people exist in a real way.
Oh, not even remotely.
That's why I'm not being wider in that language. But
no, I got you.
Every single person. Yeah.
Some of these photos you have. So protection at conception, no exception. Protection. So you already have protection at conception. Nobody's taking your right to conceive away. But you're right.
No one's forcing you.
But they want to force women to have babies. There is another part of that March for Life Patriot Fund member call that was leaked that I want to talk about. We can't play it because YouTube will take us down for playing it. I know this because I had it up on my District 34 channel and I got dinged for it. But they go on to talk about the fact that it's perfectly acceptable to rape young white women. because what young white women aren't having white babies, and the only way to save the white race is if more white women have white babies. And they absolutely say that it's okay to rape these young girls. Like if it's a white girl and it's on your team, yeah, we have to force her to have babies. Like, I just, I can't wrap my head around that.
I mean, I talked to a couple young men who they were on the Venn diagram of groypers. They had, follow Rome. They had signs. There's and kind of, very Catholic and weren't exactly overjoyed with the current Pope. And so you kind of also read that as where they are. But asking them, you have to ask them, and this is not something that usually March for Life protesters will or not March for Life ralliers will kind of go along with you and answer your questions, is like, okay, so what's the end goal here? What happens if a woman have an abortion? What do you want? And the fact that I got this one guy admitting that, I believe that women that have abortions should go to jail or whatever is equivalent to murder. Because I mean, if you consider abortion murder, then
that's the inevitable outcome.
And
yeah,
this is something that the March for Life organizers themselves will never say. They will never say this until it gets to that point, and then maybe they will. They've already Roe versus Wade was supposed to be the end goal, and allowing states to have rights on what they're doing was supposed to be what these groups were for. Right. But obviously, now that we have that, the March for Life wasn't just a celebration. Hey guys, we had a great time. We did everything. Thanks for coming out, and we won't see you next year because we've succeeded. The next step is maybe not even a federal ban, but doing things like what attorney generals in 20 different states have sent letters to Walgreens and CVS demanding that they don't ship abortion pills, and also potentially prosecuting them and trying to prosecute the people and the doctors and the clinicians or whoever else that ships abortion pills, which again was supposed to be supposedly, if you talk to them 3 years ago, for the most part, they wouldn't talk about that, because it's like, oh no, we just, when a baby's formed in the womb, they'd have all kind of mushy language. But when you actually finally talk to some of the people, you'll actually get them to finally admit, it's like, well, the end goal is obviously we're going to have to prosecute women that do it. And because they're the ones, murdering. It's like, it's switched from, it used to be women are the victim of abortion, and so is the unborn child.
Yeah, right.
And now they're going to do that because they have to do that, because you have to keep stepping it up. Because somebody's going to take over your game and become more hardcore than you, and you're going to lose funding and supporters. This is the same thing Trump is saying with, oh my God, DeSantis is actually doing the things that I used to talk about. Now I have to up the game. And so this is how the far right always works. And this is how
you're not wrong.
There's no ending of this.
No, you're not wrong. They're ratcheting it up. And in fact, I was saving this for our right-wing insanity roundup, but let's go ahead and play this now, Colin. I covered one of these Walgreens events this weekend, and they're coming for Plan B pills. I haven't released all this video yet. We haven't edited, but there was a fist fight that broke out between a couple of women, and it was an anti-abortion. One of the anti-abortion protesters actually decked somebody that had been walking by and stopped to engage in conversation. Yeah. Decked her, and then they ended up, getting in a fight. But let's play this one clip of this, something this gal said that I thought was pretty crazy.
Go. Just so you know, this is going to be a crime scene across America, and science says that it starts at conception. That's where life starts. And you want me to make a statement, science is catching up to the Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no universe in which science is catching up to the Bible. That's just asinine, right? And this really,
unless of course I missed it when science created, biblically true angels, and there's these spiraling feathered creatures.
She had been shouting some of these things into a bullhorn, and I was kind of like, wait, what? I mean, so I'd asked her, I'm like, would you talk to the camera? And she said, absolutely. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. But I just don't understand. Okay, listen, my thing is this. If you want to have a religious belief that life begins at conception and then that's protected and holy because God, blah, 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 fine, but don't start trying to make it about science, because it's not. It's a religious, that's 100% a religious belief. And secondly, why do you have to infringe on other people's rights? Nobody's forcing you to have an abortion. Nobody's forcing you to change your religious beliefs. You're entitled to have those things. We have a First Amendment in this country. But how do they not see that they're the ones that are going for other people's civil liberties? How do they not see that? It's like they're almost like experts at negative arguments, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the core. I mean, one of the problems is what's one of the core tenets of Christianity is evangelicism. I mean, like again, as Catholics are really big on it, but like most branches of Catholicism have some level of evangelicism because there's not like the ethnic kind of edge of it usually, and so you have to either create new Catholics or Christians, or you have to bring them into the fold. And the idea is that, you have to also be continually trying to save people as part of your kind of tenets of, because I mean, here's the thing is that like, if you really believe in most of like fire and brimstone Christianity, is that you believe that if you don't save these people that you supposedly care about, is that they're going to a literal physical hell where they were burned for all of damnation.
Right.
And for all time. And so I totally get it. But the problem is that also has a flip side. It's just like, it's very nice that you're trying to save me from a literal hell. But on the flip side, you also believe then that there's the devil is a real being.
And hell is real.
And people. And so what do you do when you literally believe, I mean, this goes to the vaccine kind of world as well. If you believe that,
they're all anti-vaxxers. It's
people,
wild.
of course. Yeah. I mean, of course. But it's just like, if you believe that people are giving deadly shots to children and, killing them or whatever, obviously the response is you have to do something. If I genuinely believed and I spent all my time researching or whatever, that these people were physically doing this, I don't know what else what you'd have to do. You'd have to physically stop people from getting shots or stop people from getting abortions or do whatever. If you literally believe that someone's going into that building and either getting an injection that's going to kill them or having a medical procedure that is going to kill a fully formed child. I mean, of course you have to do that. So it's inherent in the movement.
It is inherent in the movement. But then I did try to talk to this girl and said, but these pills aren't performing an abortion. They're basically preventing a zygote from being attached to the uterine lining. But again, she went into this life begins at conception, and that's murder. And then I said to her, your poster isn't even accurate. That's some bizarre Photoshop you guys have created. That's like, if you take a pill, you're not going to end up on the floor dying like that. That's just not. She's like, no, this is real. This is literally a woman that I'm like, okay, like I can't.
This is the same crowd though. I mean, like in March for Life, I've taken photos that like can't be printed anywhere, which is wild because it's like, I can't think of any. I've been, covered 1,000 lefty protests. I don't think there's a single sign outside of maybe a swear word being on it that I couldn't print somewhere or that no one would print. But like every single time I cover a anti-abortion rally, there are photos of as what I call the fetus fetishists, who have the large mangled corpse,
that aren't even real.
And I mean, this is the same. This is the same March for Life that PAUU participates in, and these are groups of people like Lauren Handy who not only do clinic break-ins and harass people that try to go and get just at this point in a lot of places like Planned Parenthoods in a lot of part of the country and former abortion clinics like Robin Marty's down in the West Alabama Health Center. It's just a healthcare center. It's just women can go in and get healthcare and check out because they can't do anything else. And so they still harass people at these clinics. They still get death threats. They still do everything because it's just the idea of it. But is the fact that we just can't move on from this idea that basically women getting any sort of health at all is at all acceptable. So
no, and it's crazy, and it's crazy to me how many other women participate in this viewpoint. Right? They're fine with their rights being taken away. They're fine being diminished to that statue, and I can't help but thinking they've just been indoctrinated or sucked into these rabbit holes. And if this is the only stuff you hear all the time, 24/7, especially if you're a child going forward, it's understandable how this happens. But God, you just want to be like, can I just give you a hug and get you out of this belief system you're being sucked into? It's really unhealthy.
So many of these people are a level. I mean, like the Lauren Handy, the person I was mentioning before, is just like, this is a woman who had dozens or over 100 pieces of fetuses kept in her home in a suburb in DC, and she's looking at jail time. I thought she was, at least. She's weirdly still able to protest in front of Planned Parenthoods and things like that.
This is
it's wild. She had that they were supposedly burying, and they acquired somehow. They have a story about how they acquired. I'm sorry?
Are you kidding me?
Oh, no. This is very well documented.
Somehow I've missed this. That is insane.
Oh, yeah, no, Lauren Handy, the PAU, I always miss up their acronym, supposedly progressive anti-abortion people. And these are the groups that will show up, and they protest every year before the March for Life rally at the Democratic headquarters, claiming that they're Democrats in every other way except for abortion.
Except for this. I didn't know that she had been found with body parts at her house, though. That's wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it was over 100 basically medical waste. I mean, that's really at the end of the day. But they supposedly were doing like a whole burial, which is it's also wild because they refused to tell us because we asked this question. Okay, so you took. If you believe that these are someone's children that you took that are unborn fetuses, and buried them in a Catholic ceremony, did you contact the parents of these? Contact the woman and ask her, are you Christian? Do you want a Christian burial for your thing? And also, do you want to know where your child is buried? Because supposedly they buried a bunch of this. A bunch of the fetuses that they stole.
That's deranged.
And they wouldn't answer, and they won't. They obviously won't because we don't even know where the stuff came from. But they're looking at prosecution for it as we speak. So
that's wow. That's entirely deranged.
Still able to protest in front of Planned Parenthood last month for some reason, and literally block their doorway as people were trying to get in.
So let me ask you this, Zach. Other right-wing extremist groups besides Patriot Front, have you noticed any at the last March for Life?
I mean, like the New Columbia movement is a
right. You mentioned them,
newer group. Yeah,
are they a fascist organization, or what's their whole story?
They're a Christian. I don't know if they would admit that they were fascists, but in every way, they're a Christian nationalist organization that they had a really hard time when I talked to one of their leaders. Really had a hard time saying what position either atheist Muslims or Jewish people would have in their dream society. They certainly wouldn't be able to participate in government. So like I mean, you basically talk your way into them being a Christian fascist organization. But they believe that there should be a whole basically a movement, a supposedly somehow also peaceful movement, that this is going to just happen because none of these groups will ever admit that. How do you take away power from people? And they're not exactly. It's like they're pushing for a it's like, oh, we should just vote our way in there. And it's just like, oh, it's just going to happen somehow. So, but yeah,
I think they're, that's it though. They're giving up on democracy because they keep trying at democracy and they haven't been able to get their, legislative goalposts entirely put in place. So now they're kind of going to this point where they're saying it's okay if we have some fascism, if we get our guys in. It's crazy though.
I mean, it's hard to believe that a lot of these people ever genuinely, they saw democracy, or they saw voting as an ends to their means. I mean, these are people that work with big billionaire donors. I mean, all of these groups have very decent funding that any lefty group on the other side would kind of dream of.
CNP, Koch brothers, 100%.
Yeah, and so they're both using each other. The Koch brothers are using kind of this movement. I doubt that the Koch brothers really give a damn about
I agree with you. They don't.
Yeah, well, the Koch, there's no longer brothers.
That's true. The one that remains. But no, I think you're right. They benefit from the instability and civil unrest, and they know they do. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and again, these are useful idiots for the end kind of libertarian right-wing dreams of the Koch brothers and all those other families. And I mean, I think some of the big billionaire backers are genuinely genuinely extreme, let's just say extreme Christians, for lack of a better term.
Right.
I do believe that. But again, like the fact is that like they kind of use the idea of, well, in a Christian society, there's the Protestant work ethic basically on crack. And so we'll be able to kind of push through this idea of like, oh, good Christian workers follow their leaders, and the pastors. We have the spread of the prosperity gospel is such a huge thing, where you get closer to God the more successful you are. As if you have 3 Mercedes 300 class, you're just a little bit closer.
Right.
And so that kind of idea, like again, they go hand in hand, and so it's a profit making center. The scary thing is that last year I documented that the lawyer groups. Thomas More Society is a law group that basically was fighting a lot of the anti-abortion cases, and you'll see their name on every single kind of abortion group, or at least lawyers from that group. But one thing that it was wild, kind of like how they would kind of move in and out of it, is they know that the new grift is election protection, not election protection, but is talking about stolen elections. And so literally now the same lawyers that used to try anti-abortion cases and
are doing that,
try to legislate anti-abortion issues and like make it harder for clinics to do things, are also now fighting the same thing and talking about Zuck bucks and things like that, and just how it interchanges, how quickly, because that's where the grift is, that's where the money is, and that's where a lot of people, you can draw people in that may not necessarily, abortion may not be their issue, but they really care and they really believe about the Dominion voting machines and everything like that, and so you can pull them into the same world. And then now your numbers are, tripled.
Well, that's what they're doing, right? Is they're red pilling folks from these outlier issues that they kind of drum up, and then they kind of, lure them further to the right. This is something we've seen with vaccines, quote unquote election integrity, and a handful of other things. Go ahead. Yeah. The Venn diagram. Yeah.
Oh no, just the very extremely weird idea that 20 years ago, I mean, everything in life is like, 20 years ago, would you ever imagine this? The idea that anti-abortion, people that care about elections in some way, shape, and form, and also vaccines.
And vaccines.
Like the idea
what
that,
the hell?
I mean, I wrote a comic book with Bobby Kennedy 15 years ago. The idea that that like he would be basically a like on stage with these lunatics. I mean, I always knew
I know,
that
it's insane, right?
But yeah,
he's gotten really sucked into that. It's wild. He's
gone. I mean, it's very unfortunate to say, because like he's a guy that really. I mean, I know people that work in his the environmental groups that he started, the Inlet Keepers groups.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're like, we have to remove. We can't figure out. We have to remove his name from our website because. And it's like the fact of like everything that he kind of touched had to be, it was completely destroyed by the fact that he's completely off the walls. I've had multiple conversations with him over the years, personal dinner, sat down with his kids, had dinner, never once brought up any of this. Wasn't even in the conversation. We talked about elections, we talked about that. And so like this idea that he's this far gone, I don't know. I mean, the pandemic broke a lot of people, but it did. Broke him in a way that
it did. It really, like people I never thought were anti-science, I see turning into massive anti-vaxxers. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I want to bring up this article from American Magazine. The reason being, this is a Jesuits political magazine, so it's definitely a Christian publication. But Jesuits, I think, are a little bit more liberal than a lot of the other organizations are, but it's addressing, March for Life and the right-wing extremist problem from that viewpoint. So Destiny Hendon De La Rosa did not understand what was happening at first when a young man in khaki pants and a camo jacket, I think this is probably somebody from Patriot Front, approached a meetup she was joining during the March for Life on January 21st. Helmeted, his identity obscured by the face covering balaclava, de rigueur among U.S. extremists of all stripes, the young man launched a one-sided confrontation with the group. Fuck, it says fuck, they blotted it out, but fuck you guys, he told members of pro-black, pro-life, and Democrats for Life contingents gathered for the event. In 10 years, when the Civil War breaks out, you guys are done. Okay, so this is him showing his Nazi roots right there, right? We were so baffled, said Sherilyn Holloway, the founder of Pro-Black, Pro-Life. Miss Hendren De La Rosa, the founder and president of New Wave Feminists, believed at first that the young man emerged from a group of counter-demonstrators nearby. We thought he meant pro-lifers, like he was some pro-abortion activist or something. We just said, well, God bless you. So there are factions of this march where they're still not processing exactly where they're at, right? So some of these folks, I think, probably are kind of baffled by this. Tracked that day by a CNN news crew, Ms. Hendren De La Rosa had been on her best behavior, a calm, joyful, wonderful pro-life feminist. But when she slowly realized that the man's comments had been directed at pro-black, pro-life members, she forgot all about CNN and pulled out her bullhorn. Fuck Nazi, she shouted at front members gathered nearby. Good for her. Yeah. She felt bad about that later, she said, before deciding that in the end, her gut reaction was authentic and appropriate. How beautiful would it have been if when these white supremacist groups come out here organizing this little clump over there on the sidewalk, if we were all screaming at them, get out, racism has no place here, she said. Okay, so I want to point out that I don't think she understands the temperature of the country right now.
I don't think she understands the history and March for Life as a whole. The idea that so much of the anti-abortion movement isn't wholly based on the idea of having more white babies as a problem. I mean, the fact that almost every anti-abortion group out there uses race as a conversation, talking about there's billboards all across the country that talk about how many black babies are taken. You can drive through Atlanta and there's one every 20 miles or so, and talking about how this is really centering it in this world. And so this is
right. But then they turn around, Zach, then they turn around in their private Telegram chats and are like, good, let them abort the black babies, but we need to preserve our white babies. And also it's okay to rape young white women.
The fact that as far as I can tell, there hasn't been a statement issued about Patriot Front being once again at March for Life and not booted. I mean, like the fact that there's I forget what they call them, the people that keep people on the road and everything like that. What's the word? But like Knights for Columbus and other groups basically perform that kind of action. Kind of people, if you're at a lefty protest, usually it's like an orange t-shirt. The fact that these guys are there and handing out flyers and very clearly...
And no one's stopping them,
No one's stopping them. No one boots them out. The fact that the March for Life was able to just march alongside them in D.C. and in Chicago last year as well, and I believe San Francisco as well. And the fact, I mean, I get that they're not supposedly, at least not a violent organization or anything like that, March for Life, but like you would think that like this would be the sort of thing that you need to really genuinely deal with, as opposed to just kind of like issue a quiet statement maybe on Twitter and never deal with it again. Like, I don't know, like anytime I forget the phrase, is like basically like if there's a Nazi flag at your protest, if there's one Nazi flag at your protest and no one does anything about it,
you're condoning it. Rally. I agree. You're condoning it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because if you really felt like it was a problem, you'd run that guy out. I've seen this time and time again. Guys wearing, the guy that had the swastika necklace on. I mean, obviously they're saying, you pulled them aside, the other folks, and asked them why they're okay with that. And they're like, well, we're not. I'm like, but you are. You're not running these guys out. Yeah. Like, there's a certain level of tolerance for that.
Yeah. And the fact that, like, so much of their membership have stronger beliefs on this. It took, the fact that there's, Catholic priests who have been booted from their, they've been defrocked, that speak at these rallies and that are honored members of the March for Life world. And the Pope booted them out of the religion as a priest. And for some reason, still these people are honored members, basically because of the vile, genuinely terrible things that they're sharing on social media, and that these people are still welcome. I get that you have a big tent. But you know what? There's only so much room in a revival for basically full right-wing extremists. If you're pretending that this movement is a kind movement that's really just cares about unborn babies, that's fine. But you need to then, you need to kind of take care of this. I mean, like
they're not going
left does
to.
this all the time. If somebody shows up, you'd be like, no, you're out. Even the standard Republican Party used to do this kind of thing to some level, but it seems that now,
not anymore. I mean, now they're
yeah. I mean, they're
not anymore.
Well, I mean, they know that at their base that that a good percentage of the people marching, there's because I mean, one thing they'll always point out is that there was 30 Patriot Front members that marched, and then there was 30,000 people in the rally. Like, are you really going to just talk about this? Never mind the fact that anytime there's a broken window at a 20,000 Black Lives Matter march, the entire march was violence. But we'll move around that idea, But
You're
this idea though is that again, every single time I've ever covered a Black Lives Matter protest and somebody's breaking a window or somebody's not even necessarily breaking a window, but doing something violent or doing something that is out of the kind of definition of the march, they get moved, they get dealt with very quickly, especially in the last couple of years, because they know what the image looks like. And the fact that March for Life seems to think they're bigger than this issue and don't care.
No, I mean, we've even seen right-wing extremists show up at BLM marches and smash windows. That's not even a conspiracy theory. It's happened a few times. So I think a lot of it has to do with accelerationist kind of viewpoints, right? We want to accelerate the point of civil unrest, civil public distrust. We want to get that to the point where there's an actual, Rohawa, the racial holy war, right? That's the end game.
The leadership of the, not just for March for Life, but the larger organizations that take part in March for Life, because most of the people that are physically marching in March for Life are just Catholic school kids. Mind you, the first photo that I took when I walked upon March for Life was a Catholic high school kid with one with an All Lives Matter flag and one with a Confederate flag that had an an AR-15 across it.
On top, yeah. Okay.
That was the first photo that I took at March for Life. This just last month. And so the fact that immediately once me and a couple other journalists were oh, we're going to go talk to this young man about his belief that kind of the priest kind of swarmed, was put that flag away. You it was very clearly put that away, and we never saw it again. But we did see All Lives Matter flags all over the place. They were selling them. You can always tell the tenor of a rally, by the way, with the merchants that kind of show up and sell flags or whatever. There's a reason why there was Don't Tread on Me flags. There's a reason why there was All Lives Matter flags. There was a reason why there was even Confederate flags with AR-15s across them that were sold there, and a lot of Donald Trump flags in that world. And so they're not going to show up, they're not going to show up with Black Lives Matter flags at this rally, because they know who they're selling to. Just like in the same way that March for Life and the other organizers there know who they're messaging to, they know who their members are. There's no way that these multi-million-dollar organizations aren't doing continual polling and aren't continually doing social media, A/B testings on what messages go forward and what their base looks like. And there's a reason why they let these organizations keep coming, because they know if they stood out and was screamed at them and is there's no place for these people here, and if they show up, we will immediately remove you from the space. But they don't.
No, you're right. I think there's a reason for that. All right. So now let's switch gear, and I have what I do, my weekly right-wing insanity roundup, which is basically some things that are happening this week that are kind of on the crazy side. We've got a host of them this week. I want to start off talking about Brandon Russell. He was just arrested this Monday. So Brandon Russell used to be part of Adam Waffen division, so he has been in jail. He was released from jail. He's now been arrested again because he was part of a group planning a attack on a power grid. So let's pull that up, Colin, the affidavit, so folks can see what we're talking about him. But his girlfriend, who my fake Nazi account on Telegram was in a couple rooms with her, actually. So basically they were planning, her name is Sarah Beth Clendaniel. They were planning to take out the Baltimore power grid. Also, I want to mention that, we had multiple occasions of this where it's been happening. I've seen the National Socialists in Florida talking about also taking out power grids. So apparently this is something the right wing wants to do, I think, is part of this accelerationist program, right? Take out the power grid. We'll get somewhere with this. So his previous arrest was for explosive charges, right? So he, let's pull up the neo-Nazi leader sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for explosive charges. He's a guy that kind of and was enamored with Timothy McVeigh. So Russell, an active and founding member of a neo-Nazi group, was sentenced today by a federal judge after he unlawfully possessed and stored dangerous explosive materials in his home. And acting assistant attorney general Boente, this case is but one example of the National Security Division's resolve to identify, disrupt, and prevent terrorist threats, whether domestic or international. I am thankful for the great collaboration, coordination among our law enforcement partners in bringing this case forward. Their quick response and in-depth investigation has resulted in successful prosecution. So basically, the guy had explosives. We don't know what he was planning to do with them, but two of the other ones, one of them had actually converted to being a Muslim, one of the Atomwaffen Division guys down in Florida, and he was getting bullied by the other two guys and was killed. I don't know. Did you follow any of this?
I haven't that closely enough to comment on it, no.
Okay, so there's that. And then I want to, Colin, one last thing. I want to pull up his girlfriend's Telegram. There we go. Yep. So these were the kinds of photos she was putting up there. Universal order. I know.
I always there's when you cover this stuff long enough, there's like a level of like dark humor that you kind of have to take from some things, and the fact that like Nazis still like share like cat photos and things like that.
I know, you're just like, and the cat, and there's the cat with the swastika. Yeah,
it's still cat memes are universal. The one thing maybe we can all come together on is.
No, you're not wrong. And in fact, there's another Telegram called Zoomerwaffen. So I'm guessing it's a Zoomer that runs this account, or somebody that wants to be perceived as a Zoomer. Yeah. But in between all of these Nazi things, he posts all these cat videos. It's just like, really?
I mean, there's one thing. This is like slightly sidetracked, but I've noticed that the Epoch Times, you know, the newspaper, news in big quotes.
News, definitely not news.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've started a new Twitter channel that basically shares like funny videos and like viral social media content. Right. I'm constantly seeing it because it's advertised and people are sharing it tens of thousands of times. And obviously, this is Elon Musk's Twitter, so it's not necessarily surprising, but it is they know that this viral kind of content can slide people really easily. Again, like if you get, this is why like it's always really dangerous to like share those Alex Jones memes about like him playing country, the country music song. It's very fun, and like I shared them, and I probably will continue to some level because I have a very kind of focused group of people that follow me on social media. But is because it's this fun way of like, oh, you can just slide people in, into this thing. It's like, oh, watch some cat videos, and then that's weird. There's an election integrity conference coming up sponsored by Epoch, and you just go, oh, that's the brand recognition that I recognize, and so.
And so all of a sudden they think it's not. So Epoch Times, for folks that don't know, was started by a cult, basically. They're very pro-Trump. They're anti-vax. They're definitely not unbiased news. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're a disinformation
they are disinformation.
Network, very well-funded disinformation network that is deeply confusing on their politics historically, but like.
Well, I think they're just driven by anti-communist belief, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, they'll go kind of wherever that is, even though, again, like what is Donald Trump ever done for anti-China,
Nothing.
which is something, you even let those balloons float over because that's
nothing.
The biggest
But it's
thing in the world
Falun
that we all
Gong,
care
which
about.
it's a Falun Gong, which is a Chinese American cult that's in New York, for folks that want to look it up, that runs Epoch Times. That's their base. Yeah. All right, so now I want to talk about the Grammys. So now all the right wing Telegram, Twitter, all of it is just enraged by what they're calling a satanic worship song. So I want to look at some of the fallout from that. So this video is a guy that's really angry that Pfizer sponsored the Grammys. They had some ads. So now it's destroy Pfizer. So let's play this clip.
Filthy Pfizer Satanists, okay? Triple boosting people, bunch of satanic, chimeric parasite injecting, snake venom peptide eugenicist, disgusting people. It's time. You know what we need to do? Pfizer is just a manufacturing plant for Satan, okay? We need to shut that friggin' place down. Shut it down. Destroy Pfizer now. Do it now. Do it now. Go over the wall, get into their freaking buildings, unplug all their freaking equipment. Let's go. It's time to storm the Bastille, is it not? Huh? Oh, that's illegal. Really? They're killing people and bragging about it and sponsoring this freaking crap right here. They should be shut down for sponsoring this level of Satanism that should never occur here on earth. Pfizer corporatism must be destroyed. Must be destroyed.
I mean, that there's a lot in there that I agree with.
Right,
Pfizer and big pharmaceutical companies. This is something,
right.
Again, we can come to, that meme.
But for the different reasons, like
hands.
Pfizer, like they go after the wrong reasons. Like Pfizer's bad because they're greedy and they are holding the patent to a life-saving thing that could help lots of people. And our government's participating in that because it's taxpayer-funded dollars that fund the research, yet they get to hold the patent. So you can attack that system for the greed it is, but going after the scientists is ridiculous. The science is sound. Calling them Satanists because of a transgender musical performance, I mean, really?
I mean, it is the thing is that
oh boy,
this is what we've got now gone is that we're way past scholastic terrorism.
We are.
We're literally telling people to go do this. I mean, this is something that I've noticed because Alex Jones set the bar of where, so much of right-wing media kind of discusses, but he would never say this. And this is not me defending Alex Jones in any way, shape, or form, but it is stunning to watch people you have to one up and whatever. And this is they're literally telling people to go. There's no sense of irony. There's no metaphorically, politically, we have to go do this. We have to, literally storm. What was he said? Something storm the Bastille. We have to jump over the fences. He's saying literally go into the buildings and do these things. And
I think they mean it. I think they really, literally, if they could figure out how to destroy Pfizer headquarters, they 100% would. 100%.
I mean, you have the co-host there going,
yeah,
giving the with her eyes closed, like she's at some church service or something like that, listening to a pastor. Which this sounds very much. He's using every adjective he can think of in the book. He's bringing up. I mean, it's amazing how many. I didn't even have time to type down all of the different conspiracy theories, but the snake venom one is one of my faves of the conspiracy of what's in. What I'm trying to remember if the snake venom one is that snake venom can cure the vaccine or it's physically in the vaccine. There's so many variations.
There's so many variations of it. I mean, these guys are pouring their own pee over their eyeballs as a cure for COVID. So I mean, who knows?
I mean, and that's if you do the weird home remedy type of things, But I guess that's on you. Literally,
but physically. I mean, but that's not. But my favorite thing is they say that the vaccines are experimental, but pouring pee over your eyes is what now? That sounds.
I mean, the
science?
bleach water is always a big one.
The
too.
Bleach water, that one too.
You're like diluted bleach.
That's sound science. How exactly? I mean, it's
Yeah. No, I mean, but this is the biggest thing in those clips though is it scares me is that 10,000. God only knows what his real numbers are and everything like that. The incredible number of people that watch and listen to this stuff. But let's say 10,000 people hear that watch that clip. There's 10 people. There's 10 people who are going to go, yes, we should plan for that. And the problem is as well is that and this is something again that I always use kind of like the left. I don't think that there's what's his name, the Twitch streamer Hassan, who's I don't know what the comparison, the lefty conspiracy, who's a really popular lefty, that guy, let's say.
Yeah, but so many of these guys I wouldn't even consider left. They've been red pilled, right?
I mean, but I'm thinking of a lefty equivalent of saying we should be angry at Donald Trump. We should rise. The difference is your fan base. You know who your fan base are. And so these people know who their fan base are. They know that they are, that
Riling
half of their fan base has a basement that is maybe it's got 10,000 cans in it, and they're prepping for the end times, and
Guns,
they've got.
whatnot,
but the biggest thing is that they're the reason
driven
why
by
there's bullet
anger.
shortages.
Yeah, 100%.
And so they know who they're talking to, and you have to be aware of who your audience is when you say, especially if you're saying extreme things. Bernie can be like, we got to burn down. The pharmaceutical companies. Does he actually mean burning down?
No, he means BERN. Yeah, yes. I mean it's a euphemism.
There you go. I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. A lot of it is grifting, but it is driving acceleration, nihilism. All of these things are kind of ratcheting up. And to that effect, I wanted to play what Tucker Carlson had to say about this.
They're so shameless about this. They don't even care. Tonight's transgender Satanism brought to you by Pfizer. Inject their products into your body. So great. Chadwick Moore, awesome to see you tonight.
I mean, I guess, the satanic panic is back. Not that it went away. So let's just the 80s are the huge rave with all the kids. So let's bring back the satanic panic.
These idiots really think that this is full-blown Satan worship. They really believe this? Come on, it's just a performance. It's
I'm old enough to remember when Wiccan was was the big scare. Believe me, actual
records
Wiccan,
playing backwards.
And I remember tarot cards was one of the big terrifying things that was going to bring all kids to Satanism. Hell, I was working at Barnes and Noble when Harry Potter was being sold, and then that was going to bring everybody. And now we see how that's.
And now she's a TERF. Yeah,
But it's kind of sad how the same people just keep getting sold on the same bill of lies every single time, and the fact that everyone just keeps buying into it in a different way. And Tucker Carlson is an insane person on any level, and I don't know where his kind of drift ends, because he just keeps going farther and farther. Again,
he keeps going farther and farther. The white genocide stuff that he basically says daily at this point is really frightful, if you ask me.
Yeah, the fact that he's he's on he's not Alex Jones, he's not pigeonholed.
No, he's got a huge audience, millions of people. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's on in airports in the background. It's just he's omnipresent everywhere.
I've gone into doctors' offices where they have Fox News on. I immediately leave and I'm not paying you to.
Yeah, I feel like
take
that's
care
a good
really?
You don't need a Yelp review on that. You just need to go.
No,
Fox was on.
You just need
TV.
to go. Gotta
Tucker
go.
Carlson was on.
Yeah, gotta go. I'm out. I'm out, y'all. Well, speaking of Tucker Carlson, let's bring up Pet Skunk. How many right wingers are going to adopt pet skunks now? This is an actual screenshot. It may be time to add a baby skunk to your family. I mean, okay, I guess. Yeah. That's a real, folks, that is a real screenshot. It's hilarious.
And his face is always the same. It's no matter what he's saying, no matter, people could be like, by the way, the sky is blue, and he looks shocked. So that could be literally used for anything. But it's, this is part of, Tucker Carlson, at this point it has to be managed. It's a multi-$100 million, empire is Tucker Carlson with his own network. But this is one of the uncomfortable things is that I'm laughing at it. And so I'm not shaming anybody else who's laughing at it, but it's just he uses these ridiculous clips intermingled with the white genocide stuff.
Right. So it's kind of like the baby cats, right?
Ridiculous guys. And that's it's part of the Alex Jones, the whole kind of mentality of, I'm a performer when it's illegal, when he's being sued by somebody, he's like, I don't really believe this stuff. I'm doing a performance act. And that's, I hate to say it, in 10 years or hopefully whenever it's in a year, 6 months or whatever, when finally something happens and he ends up getting sued or something like that happens and he has to go on, we're just this is all a bit. Look you think I'm a serious journalist? I talked about pet skunks for an entire segment, and then I talked about white genocide. Okay,
people forget that he was on MSNBC at one point.
Yeah.
I do think that this is a bit he's playing. He's getting paid well for it, and shame on him though for not considering what the actual consequences of that are. Because those are real.
He's a smart enough person that that there has to be some sort of end goal. I mean, like, because he is
I think it's just making money. I think
he's an extraordinarily wealthy
yeah.
person before he started, and he's an even more extraordinarily wealthy person now. And I get that, like, money isn't, like, people with $1 billion, all they care about is getting the second billion. But it's this idea that, like, what worries me is that, like, is he waiting for the moment where is he more powerful than, you know, than if he ran for president or if he ran for governor or something like that? Is he more powerful
wouldn't surprise
in this
me.
position?
Yeah, it
because
wouldn't surprise
he's not
me
time
though.
limited here. So
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me though, Zach, if he ended up running for office. That would be like.
I mean, he could. I mean, I'm sure he could. I mean, he would be probably any number of people's, you know, vice presidential candidate choice in a heartbeat. I mean, not that, or vice versa. You know, I mean, like him and DeSantis running would be. I don't. Not that Fox News would probably force him. I mean, the question is, would Fox News force him to get rid of his show? It's the only kind of thing that probably stops him from ever doing anything political. On the other hand, the dude has so much more power, and he realizes, like so many people on the right wing do, is that they realize is that culture is way more important than in a lot of ways. Because if you shift,
I agree.
Politics, you don't need to.
Right. No, you're not wrong on that. So last week we talked about Identity Europa founder Nathan D'Amico being present in Atlanta during the Cop City protests, or at least having somebody working for him, their president, at the protests. I went through that whole story with screenshots and whatnot. So I'm wondering now, is this becoming a thing? Because this week in Florida, we had Joshua Nunez, who is the founder of the National Socialists in Florida. He's extremely Nazi guy, extremely Nazi, very far right. He showed up to a DSA meeting, the Democrat Socialists of Florida. He showed up to their meeting and was obviously promptly escorted out. Let's put this screenshot up. What kills me is he's actually wearing a NatSoc Florida t-shirt to the meeting, as if he was going to like walk in wearing that t-shirt and nobody was going to like be like, ha, don't think so, Nazi. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty brazen. I mean,
I feel like I don't know. Like you do that to get kicked out. I guess that's the thing. Or you really think that no one's going to notice the very clear symbols on your chair? I mean, anywhere you're going to go, like if you go to a DSA meeting, people have a basic idea of what symbols look like at a DSA meeting, and so
that's right. And which is what happened. I want to pull up another thread of just some background information on who Joshua Nunez is. So this is some shots. Let's pull up this thread, Colin. Nazis at NatSoc Florida are really putting out some high quality 1488 recruitment propaganda. So 1488, as we've discussed, is, you know, it's a Nazi phrase. The 14 is the 14 words about preserving white children, blah, blah, blah. The 88 is HH, Heil Hitler. It's the 8th letter in the alphabet. So, you know, that's the symbol. That's the National Socialists of Florida. You know, let's scroll down and take a look at some of these things. We can put that up. Get married, have kids, be the white face that they hate. You know, again, there's this idea that white women aren't having white babies. You see this push in a lot of the socialist channels. Here is his Twitter, which I think is actually back up. I'm glad that you're enjoying yourself. Truth fears no investigation, unlike you and your comrades, with the 3 parentheses denoting that he thinks they're Jewish. I don't hide behind a veil of anonymity. You have made it clear many times that remaining anonymous is extremely important to you. I hope that you keep the same energy when our people show up in your neighborhood. I do love barbecue. Silly veiled threats. So one of the things that they did is this laser thing. Oh, wait, one more. I want to scroll down to this guy with the mask. Florida Nazis get mad online, daily news thing. That's obviously not a real headline, but this is another meme. There you go, that one, yeah. So that's their symbol there, the same one that you saw on the t-shirt.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to pull up a video, though. The next one, Colin, it's a video. It's so they had this like laser thing that they were doing, this Nazi laser thing. So they paid some guy who was going around Florida and he was doing these laser signages on the sides of buildings all over the place. This is one of them. And then they would shoot these propaganda videos. So they were creating these propaganda videos. What they would shoot they called it the laser and they would put them online. So let's play this one with GDL, Goyam TV. So that's just a typical thing that they would do. So it says Jews are wrecking the United States of America. So they were going around town, putting up this laser on the sides of buildings, shooting videos, and then populating their Telegram channel with this.
Yeah, this has been going on for quite a while. Like I remember seeing this video, not this video, but a different video that was actually considerably more clear on the side of a building. Like you're talking about like 6 stories high projection on the side, which as somebody who's worked with people that do not those type of videos, but like those type of projection, like a projection of that sort of thing as activism, that takes a lot. That's a very expensive process, and to the power that you need on a projector and everything like that. And the fact that they've been going on off and on for quite a while, and usually those things get shut down after like 10 seconds because the cops cops were like, no, we're not doing that. But I guess not in Jacksonville. But it is terrifying that like how long it went on. And it is terrifying, and
it's not going to stop. So somebody's actually, you're right, it is expensive to do this. So I want to keep going down this thread. I want to pull up one of the other photos. They actually put up a swastika flag on a Tampa overpass. So this, I want to pull up some of the other photos here. So this is something that is becoming common with these groups too. Communism is Jewish, right? So they're now trying to marry theoretical communism, which is another one of their boogeyman's, like Antifa is, with being Jewish, right? It's ostensibly a Jewish belief, which is kind of crazy. And then Jews did 9/11, watched 9/11 missing links. I want to pull up the next one, which is they put a literal swastika up on the overpass. I don't know how many hours that one stood up, but so I want people to get the idea here how extreme this guy is. And so the fact that he showed up at a DSA meeting is kind of crazy. I'm not sure what his intent and purpose is. Part of me, Zach, believes that a lot of these guys are looking for Roh-Hawa, right? To start the racial holy war. And they do that by accelerating things because it's not moving fast enough. The left isn't becoming violently responsible for the same level of acts that the right-wing extremists have become, right? So
as much as they try to claim that they are, but yeah.
Right? So how do we ramp that up? Oh, well, we go to the Cop City protest, or we go to the DSA meeting, or we go to, whatever. So do you think this is something that's going to become, to me, it feels, to be frank, it feels really kind of almost tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, because I tend to believe, kind of false flag events are kind of bullshit generally when people talk about them, but yet we're seeing this happen.
This is something the Proud Boys, and different groups have always kind of, you show up to this, this is why they're showing up to, kids drag shows or whatever, the drag shows and protesting and getting in people's faces. They're trying to get punched. They're trying to start something because they know
that's true.
At least they think that they then in response can have the justification. Well, he punched first. That means I can beat the living out of him, and kind of justify, pull these clips and have these kind of ready. Fox News will obviously, spread them along the way.
That's right.
Going, look at, the left is just
look
as
at how
violent.
Violent Antifa is. Yeah, you're not wrong on that. So we've seen that happening now for a couple of years. So I guess the next level of this is like, well, it's still not escalating fast enough. Let's pretend we're Antifa. I mean, which is crazy to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, unless it's was it the Lincoln Project showing up as fake Nazis, but remember that story? That's always the joke whenever we see Patriot Front somewhere or something like that. But it's like, is it the Lincoln Project or is it anyway? But on bad decisions on what overly funded centrist Democratic groups. But anyway, but the fact, the fact is that they've been trying this for a very long time, and that it is almost never that the left takes the bait. But if you keep trying it, there's an inevitability, especially as both sides continue to, I'm working on a story right now about people on the left that are training to use firearms and know how to, and just have it on a person, not in a like protest or march sort of way, but just as we're continually getting death threats, we're continually being attacked. They have guns, we don't. I can't have a security person with me all the time. I can't be in a secure room. I need to have that, especially since if you're somebody that's doing, good work, there's a really good chance that if you're, an activist or anything like that, you're living in a red state that has just open guns everywhere, which is something that, I live in Virginia now, and like realizing that like, I can never have road rage. I can never flip anyone off.
Because the other guy might have a gun and shit.
And so it's just like, just everyone can do everything, and just like let that person cut in line, because I don't need to get into a fight with somebody who likely has a firearm on them. And so understandably, the left is kind of
being reactionary.
I think they have been for a while, but the left is,
Yeah.
Understandably arming up. And so there's going to be a certain point where something happens, and whether or not it's going to be justified, whether or not it's, going to happen in the right way. That here's the other thing too, is you have to hope that the police believe the, I'm going to use their stereotype, the blue-haired liberal that happens to have a gun didn't shoot first or didn't do whatever. You have to trust in the system, which is not something, which is one of the reasons that I'm very uncomfortable with the idea of lefties having guns, because historically it doesn't end well for us. And it doesn't end because it's used as a justification.
That's right. There is definitely an inherent right-wing bias in local law enforcement that I agree that a lot of this is understandable reactionary stuff at this point. I mean,
it's defensive. I think
it's defensive, but I understand. I get why. But but I don't think you're wrong. I think the right wing is going to keep ratcheting up the ante on it, and it could get ugly out there. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have. This is one of the reasons. Is somebody like I have a family that that have been in the gun lobby. So like I'm very intimate with the gun lobby, the gun world. I personally don't like guns, but I totally understand why people would be arming. And I don't know if there's an answer to what it is, because I don't like when we ratchet up to their level and then go back and forth. But on the other hand, what do we do when we have an entire government that isn't doing anything about it? The State of the Union last night, where you actually had the parents of a murdered son murdered by cops, and then you have the president of the United States saying we need to reform the police and give them more money so they can be reformed.
Giving them more money isn't going to do it. I know, right?
And this is a president he's probably actually genuinely more pro-cop than Donald Trump ever was, or definitely currently is, because the whole Blue Lives Matter thing was kind of exposed on January 6th quite well. But centrist Democrats are more pro-cop than probably anybody else.
They're not reading the room, I'd say, A, and B, adding more money to the pot isn't going to fix what's broken. What's broken is the way they recruit individuals from the military that probably have PTSD, how they recruit individuals that are far too young to be given a badge and a gun. They're right out of high school, who recruit and allow, sort of right-wing extremist neo-Nazi beliefs to fester in the department, who hide behind, the police silence shield, whatever, protect the bad apples from, not doing anything about them. And, there's all of that rhetoric, and it's absolutely true. We see it time and time again, and more money is not going to fix it.
I go back to, I was covering Ferguson, the protests that were happening around there, and I was in the hotel lobby bar, having a drink after, everything. And we're watching, obviously all the news is on in the bar, and it's just cycling. It's all about, Michael Brown and kind of talking. Everyone on the talking heads are having very concerned conversations about, what he did was right or wrong or whatever, police or whatever.
Right.
And the person sitting next to me, and I think I was probably talking to other journalists and being relatively open because, a couple drinks. And the guy next to me goes, I just came back from Iraq. And the idea that police agencies are specifically trying to get people like me into the police forces, that terrifies me. Yeah. literally like 2 weeks ago, I was on the back of a Humvee with orders essentially to shoot at anything that looked like a threat.
Right.
And that cannot be the way that
you handle policing.
We handle policing.
I know.
And it was just like this shocking moment where it's just like something that, you know, like I think we all have this conversation where it's just like military, and this is a huge sidetrack, obviously, the conversation, but it is like the, you know, people going directly from, you know, basically shoot first, ask questions later to this. And, you know, this is
it's a recipe for destruction.
But it's, you know, the idea that you can train, you know, I mean, maybe I guess you can train after many, many years of, you know, kind of get that out of there. But if you don't have, again, it's like the problem is that the accountability aspect and the fact that, you know, we do have this kind of idea of who is the threat at any given day, according to the police. And one thing that I always point out at protests is that who the police feel comfortable with are who they have their backs to. And every single protest I've ever been to, the Proud Boys are the ones they have their back to.
You're 100% correct. You're right.
So this is
and then they complain. Mike kills me. They always complain about journalists being behind them. I'm like, what do you think we're going to do? I've literally had police officers turn around to groups of journalists and be like, I don't want these guys behind me. I'm like, what do you think we're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very like, I give, you know, just like coming up behind you, like give, you know, kind of those like heads up whenever I'm like
here.
running
And
through
I'm
a
always
crowd.
shocked when I hear this stuff because I'm like, what do you think is going to happen?
I mean, to be fair, like I wish that more people do. Like anytime you're running, you know, running in the middle of a protest and somebody comes up behind you, it's like it scares. But the idea of them having a, you know, somebody having a gun, I just have a camera, but they have a gun, and so, but you know, I mean, like it's.
It's a mentality. It's a problem. I agree.
One thing after Unite the Right that, you know, really that kind of exposed, and it really should have had, really should have made some dramatic, massive change, is that we saw after Unite the Right rally, but especially after January 6th, is that we should have had the conversation going, how many off-duty cops were
in
at January 6th? How many, you know, law enforcement and military were at Charlottesville?
A lot.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Yeah.
And how many were covered up, and the fact that, you know, we had to find out through the people on Twitter, like matching faces. I don't know. Like, if you believe that law enforcement will fix themselves, you would believe that they go, holy shit, that's John. He's breaking windows.
What's going? Yeah, I know, right?
I'd be like, I'm going to report that to my union and be like, okay, you know, hopefully that would do something, but obviously it doesn't.
No, because the union's going to protect them. They did protect a lot of them. That's just a fact. Yeah. All right, I want to play another Tucker Carlson clip because he's talking about what I'm going to call anti-white racism, as if this is an actual thing and not an oxymoron. But let's play this.
At the core of the Democratic program is race hatred. Obviously, the party of Jim Crow is still at it. They never really changed. They just call it equity now. Florida State University, completely controlled by the left, has just adopted a series of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to promote bigotry openly. Castigates believing Christians for their Christian privilege. There's no Christian privilege in this country, by the way. The school also offers a racially segregated scholarship that bars white students from applying, which is illegal, but it's also race hatred. What's another word for it? There isn't one. It's race hatred. But this is everywhere.
This is so dangerous and so fucking messed up. He's basically saying equity. Yeah. Equity, inclusion. So we're now, what we're talking about doing here is bringing disenfranchised groups like black folks, brown folks, whatever, up to the same level that white folks have always had in this country from jump, always had in this country from jump.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and he's calling that race hatred. Listen, my point is he's becoming so fucking extreme. He sounds like a Nazi. I'm sorry, this clip, Tucker Carlson sounds like a Nazi.
No, I mean, this is the kind of the base tenets of like anytime you have people start discussing about equality, and if you start feeling that equality means that something's being taken away from you, then like this is how every single like hate group begins. This is the basic like 101 of if you're trying to bring in members of Patriot Front or whatever, you literally look at the messaging, you look at the conversation. I mean, this is the Proud Boys, like Western civilization is the best and everything like that. And this is how it all starts. And the fact that, again, as we've hammered, is the fact that he's, you know, the number one broadcaster on any given night.
It's scary.
Speaking to the largest number of people, and has people turning in night after night. It's not like, oh, Rachel Maddow had a really great night where she broke down some Russia story or something like that, and then her numbers were really big. But no, this is every single night. This is must-see television for a majority of one of the two political parties in America. And that he's speaking to one group of people, and he knows who he's speaking to, and he can speak to just that group of people and not have to worry, not have to give a damn about anybody else. While all the other cable news networks, every single other host, every single other person, they have to talk to their producers are telling them at least that they have to talk to this huge audience. And we had one host, which I very regret because I'm blanking on her name, the African-American woman who just got booted from MSNBC because she was talking about race issues too much. And
Joy? No, not Joy.
Not
Reid,
Joy. She's
Bear?
a weekend host.
No, weekend host. Melissa Perry? Like how long ago?
Just like 2 months ago, she was fired.
Oh, okay. I missed this. I guess what I want to say about this Tucker Carlson clip, though, is that I think that this is something that you would have.
Sorry.
That's okay. What's her name? Tiffany Cross. Oh, Tiffany Cross.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know she was fired. That's how little I pay attention to cable news hosts. But I think what's important here is that this is now being normalized. This is how far to the right the Overton window is on Fox News. Huge audience, millions of viewers. This is something that you would have only seen in a White Lives Matter type channel on Telegram 3 years ago. This is how far the Overton window has moved. This would not have been acceptable on cable news 3 years ago. I don't think it would have.
I don't think anyone would dare to say it. Like, I don't think that people would dare to even bring this in the conversation. The fact that now we have relatively centrist, perceived as centrist Republicans having this conversation in different ways. Like CPAC, when I went to CPAC earlier or late last year, down in Texas, and when Texas was the absolute worst, and almost every single person was talking about this message in different ways. If it wasn't that, it was talking about how trans people are the worst people on the planet and they're coming for your children or something. I don't even know how to really perceive on how right wingers perceive trans people as a threat. But
I know.
Okay,
it's crazy.
But it is like this has become kind of a mainstream thing again. Like wrapping up with the March for Life thing, it's this idea that white people are being overwhelmed, and this kind of idea that because of the population shift happening in this country, that's happening not just because of immigration, which is its own thing, but because of population shift, that white people are just not having as many kids or whatever.
Or wait, the worst, scariest thing of all is that, and this is true, is that white people are having interracial marriages with other folks.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing is that that's a race traitor thing, and that's and people are there's large numbers of people who are
they shouldn't be. I mean, the fact
that
that people are terrified of it is like frightful to me. Here's the reality: white folks were never a global majority when we talk about the entire world, population wise. Never. We have gotten away with ruling everybody for a very long time. And it's time that the roosters came home to roost, right? So the idea that equity is hatred, equity is being racist, equity, inclusion is bad, is just unbelievable and inexcusable rhetoric that we are hearing on the regular, and now we're hearing it on Fox News. And this is very bad. I just can't. When I heard this, I was like, wow, he's just, full hood off now at this point.
I mean, the fact that this is internationalized as well, and the fact that
100%
there's countries, there's so many countries that are paying people to have kids. Not that we don't, anyways, a single childless male. I'm not going to get on the rant about, taxes and things like that. But, it's just like the fact that we benefit people to have, in a lot of ways to have kids. Like, obviously I know kids are expensive, whatever. But it is like something that like we are so, and this, I don't even know if this is the core tenet of it, is we are so anti-immigrant in this country. Yeah. The idea that like, we can't just be like, okay, so we have these people who want to come here. Why don't we let them come here and then we're good? And then, have a system where you help people, we're oh my God, I can't believe I'm using a Dennis Miller bit from like 30 years ago. They're like, we're a melting pot
Right.
you know, and like help people melt and that sort of thing.
I mean,
but
if
like,
they
the
want
fact
to,
is
they don't,
that,
whatever. Yeah, I mean,
that you have to immediately already be there. One of the things is to bring one of the things that public education did historically in America, it kind of did at least well, like compared to other countries, you know, some other countries, you know, it's just like that, like, no, we teach you one thing, we teach you good, decent history or whatever. I had good history professors or teachers in high school, so I can say that for me. But
it's probably different no matter where.
Oh my God! Well, country, yeah, no, but it is the fact that like now we can't have, you know, DeSantis is, you know, is able to change the College Board's decision on how African American studies for the whole country.
It's scary, yeah.
And one of the most disturbing things is that, you know, it's like I've been writing a lot about DeSantis and kind of like going through and following all of the kind of nightmarish things he's kind of just checking off on the boxes of his, you know, steps towards running for president. And there's so many I would hope to believe centrist Democrat people, again, don't believe that, oh, his message is too extreme for this country, it's not going to work. And I'm just going, we're really doing this all again? Are we really doing 2015 all again, where Donald Trump goes down the escalator and says Mexicans are rapists, and then, you know, oh well, he was too extreme, and then Keith Ellison's on network TV again going, guys, like he's gonna win.
Exactly.
But we
are doing this again, apparently. And, you know, DeSantis is way worse than Trump. Anybody that doesn't see that is not paying attention. He is more committed to these Christian fascist values, and he's more competent.
That's the biggest thing, is that he's, unlike Donald Trump, he has actually succeeded in doing things. But one of the things that also worries me is that we have Brian Kemp, who has passed almost all of these same laws that in different ways that DeSantis has done, but Brian Kemp is still probably could get on MSNBC on some shows,
which is scary
because he's still perceived as, you know, a hero that stood up against Donald Trump. It's like, no, you just didn't want to commit.
No, he didn't. He just didn't want it. He didn't want to end up in jail himself. Yeah, anybody I mean, it's like ridiculous. Come on now.
Yeah, but you have several states. You know, if it wasn't for the Democratic state legislature here in Virginia, you'd have the same thing happening here. And so you have multiple states. All three people, by the way, are front runners when you talk about Brian Kemp. When the runoff was happening, or when the last election was happening last year, you know, there was a New York Times piece. There was I'm trying to remember how many. There was like at least 3 pieces that wrote about Brian Kemp is the president, is our next president. He's the future of the Republican
I remember
Party.
that. Yeah.
And, you know, Greg Palast and I were like freaking out about it. We have a whole film about it. So we're like, in a way, we're we're like, okay, let's have this conversation. But we're happy that people will pay attention to him, because he is what I think he and DeSantis, the trio combo of whatever. You know, if they figure out maybe they can do he's a perfect Mike Pence replacement, I think.
I agree.
100%. Be happy to be, and they're all young. This is one thing too.
They're all young too. I could see Brian Kemp and DeSantis on the same ticket, quite frankly. I know, scary.
This is me just cringing if anyone's just listening, but
that is cringe. It is cringe, but it could happen. Yeah. I want to play next Marjorie Taylor Greene again. Of course, she is a regular topic on right-wing insanity because, you know, let's play this clip about the $1.5 billion that never was given to anybody for any reason, because I have no idea where she got this from, but let's play this.
Daro, can you tell me how much COVID cash went to CRT?
CRT?
Critical race theory in education. It's a racist curriculum used to teach children that somehow their white skin is not equal to black skin and other things in education.
Yeah. No, I do not know that, but I do know that there's provisions that the federal funds generally are not used, they're supposed to be used for curriculum.
Oh,
that's a state.
Oh, Mr. Dodaro, I have to tell you, in Illinois, they received $5.1 billion at an elementary school there that used it for equity and diversity. So it's being used for these things. Mr. Dodaro, can you?
Okay, no, that never happened. MTG is just making some shit up right now. No school, this is a verifiable fact. No school received $5.1 billion to teach equity training. That never.
I would argue that
fucking,
no school got $5.1 billion.
Period.
In funding.
Exactly. It's just a ludicrous. It's a ludicrous claim that she's making. It's a joke. But also, I want to point out her rhetoric. Right. Again, she's making this. She's turning the table. She's trying to say anybody that is arguing for equity. We're not talking about prefacing anybody over anyone else. We're talking about correcting a problem in the country, i.e., white people have had control over everything. White people have murdered black folks. White people have stolen money from black folks. I mean, I don't even have to give our audience the history. They know what I'm talking about. But the idea that we should do something to correct that stuff isn't hatred or racism against white people. I'm sorry, inclusion, equity isn't racist against white people. And the idea that it is entirely dangerous, and it's expanding in its reach.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is the Facts Matter party arguing about like hating the idea that facts are
right.
having to be taught. Because it's like only certain facts matter. That's what
MTG,
this the entire political
Tucker
kind of
Carlson,
idea.
They are the racist ones. They are the ones that want to hold on to white supremacy. You guys are the racist ones. You are the ones that want to be at the top of a fucking iceberg controlling everybody else around you. You are the ones that want to do harm to other individuals because they don't look like you. You are the problem. I'm so tired of them trying to like reframe the argument as if they're the victims.
I will say I think that the gentleman in the clip whose name I missed he does the best. Whether or not he actually is being, I'm not quite sure whether he's playing a bit or not. But like I don't know what you're talking about.
He's
just
like,
doing
what?
that flat and like because it's like if you accept that like this argument because not a single person actually knows what CRT is. Some of them don't even know it stands for critical race theory, but like they don't even know
unless you're
what
a grad student. I actually know what CRT is because I studied it in grad school. Like nobody is teaching CRT to grammar school kids, let alone. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Like, yeah, no, I mean, this idea that like anyone that like Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States is like this sort of like leftist Bible or something like that, which I think it's the closest thing to, but that I might read. But I know some historians will argue with me. But but the fact is that like we just even having the conversation of things we haven't talked about before is now critical race theory, which it isn't. Like it isn't even that. The fact that we're like digging up new things that are documented are, like actually talking about how the Reconstruction didn't. How old? I mean, here's a question: how old were you when you found out that no, people actually were never given 40 acres and a mule? Yeah. Because I was taught up until like high school that that was a thing that happened, and that it just like the Reconstruction.
I didn't find out till I was in college. And I, actually got out into the world in college and met people from different walks of life and had my entire worldview completely upended.
And it's just
which was a good thing.
It's actually something that never happened. It's documented.
No, I know.
It's not even a question that it didn't happen. And for some reason,
it didn't happen.
Switching that from
and the fact it didn't happen is, as far as I'm concerned, is a good argument for why reparations need to proceed. I mean, not to go down into another rabbit hole, but. No, I mean, the idea that our schooling has been in any way anti-white is fucking ridiculous, right? Because what you're talking about right now is a prime example of that. If we were being realistic about how history actually was, we know that 40 acres and a mule never happened. We'd know that, right? We'd know about, I don't know. You get me.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, this is one of the most harped on things. It's February, it's Black History Month, the fact that it's the shortest month of the year. Okay, all those jokes are fantastic and true, but the fact is that like the reason we don't have a White History Month is because every month is White History Month.
We don't need a fucking White History Month. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
I know a lot of African American professors and activists who are like, I hate Black History Month because it should be it should be integrated. I know another word everyone on the right hates is integration, but integrated into education, and shouldn't just be, here's some special things. You learn about the peanut butter
here's
guy,
actual history. Instead of tokenizing
learn about
something,
the cotton gin, and then you move on. And then we're going back to the fact that, carpet. I just remembering that like a middle school textbook, again, from a very good liberal progressive public high school I went to, spent an entire page talking about carpetbaggers. And only recently I've started reading more about, as I'm working on a documentary film, like reading about the Reconstruction and about this idea of carpetbaggers being basically was like a political cartoonist like thought process, and then just expanding it. And the fact that it was just basically Northerners coming down going, please, you can't murder the freed Black people. You can't do that. And that was the idea of carpetbaggers. Some of them were even former slaves who came down and ran in the place that they used to live for political office and won, and that was somehow perceived as a carpetbagger. But
because they wanted to make it derogatory. But yeah, I got it.
Yeah, and because the Southern. The South has always led our nation. I mean, like, I think there's a very good argument the fact the South actually did win the war, and that the war has been long over, and that the South actually won. If you go to the South, they certainly won't disagree. But this idea that the guy that made critical race theory, something that's existed for many, many, many years, and no one's given a goddamn crap about, suddenly it's something that you have to care about. Christopher Rufo, who is literally admitted he says the quiet part on Twitter and says, hey, let's give this a try and see if people care about this. And then like, oh my God, I can't believe he actually has said before, he's like, I can't believe this actually worked. He has just a guy on Twitter has been able to gain enough prominence that he's now on the board of the new college, Florida College. The one of the few progressive kind of like world schools that's teaching more. He's now on the board of that. Somebody who has no education background, education background, not even as like an educator, but also he doesn't seem to really have an education background outside of how to manipulate people on the right. And he's very effective on that. But for some reason now he's sitting on a board along with,
because DeSantis said, DeSantis did this, right? He's like, I'm going to put these crazy right-wing extremists on this college board, and we're going to be able to change the curriculum for many other schools by doing so.
Which is, again, DeSantis is very smart. I mean, again, we're all assuming he's running for president. But like, again, the fact that he is building his base, he's giving these people power who are online or whatever, and building this base, and then he is not going to have that. These are people that Trump are not going to have. And you're already seeing this kind of infighting happening where Trump hasn't been able to like kind of pull the numbers that he used to at a couple rallies, and the rats are fleeing the ship. But all it takes is one big rally and Trump is back, or Trump actually finally giving up on Truth Social and going back to his millions of followers on Twitter, which I only assume has to be at some point soon. Trump has already he's taken himself off the board, and there's been a lot of conversation about him leaving, kind of giving up on the site altogether. But it's going to be terrifying. I mean, like, I always enjoy the kind of the idea of like, let them fight, the Godzilla meme. But the question is like, when everybody like DeSantis, and if Kemp, or if any number, if governor in Texas, decides he wants to get in on the fun, they're going to be proposing farther and farther right-wing strategies to try to like go bump each other up and be like, oh, I'm more MAGA than you, or I'm more MAGA than you. And how many people's lives are going to be affected along the way? That's the terrifying.
No, I don't disagree. Yeah, it's terrifying. Zach, if folks want to follow your work, where's the best place for them to do that at?
For now, it's probably head over to Twitter, ZD Roberts. My portfolio work is photos and that sort of thing. If you want to see what I've covered, is zdroberts.com. And then patreon.com/zdroberts for kind of my podcasts and different things that I do.
Right on. Thanks for joining me, Zach. Always a pleasure to speak with you about right-wing insanity.
Thanks so much for having me.